We aspire, I see. How about that?
Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to the Two Mikes on Talk Sport. After all the build-up, the confidence and the predictions of a win, the British and Irish Lions were outclassed in Auckland this morning and they're now facing the total humiliation of a 3-0 whitewash. We're going to be talking to Jason Robinson about all that. Plus, is it possible that this might be one of the last Lions tours of all time? Meanwhile, Southampton have got a new manager, as we predicted yesterday. But what does anyone know about Maurizio Pellegrino? Any more than yesterday? 08717 223344. Coming up on the show later, we're talking to former SAS soldier Rusty Furman as the new film about the Iranian embassy siege is released. Plus, we'll have the 1 minute moan. And Porky's already been banned from making it all about his sciatica. You're listening to the Two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes. It is the warm-up, of course, and I'm delighted to say it's time to say very good morning to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Yeah, good morning, Mike. And
it's Mike, yeah. You just forgot my name there.
No.
It's not very difficult one to remember, to be honest.
No, absolutely. And, of course, we'll start with the sciatica report because
really?
our fans want to. Now, you won't believe this, but I was advised...
Probably not, no.
I got a phone call last night. Somebody said, because they said, go in the car tomorrow, right, instead of walking, because walking's become very, very painful.
When you say they said,
yes.
This advisor of yours,
this advisor,
sciatica specialist, is it?
Well, no, it's somebody who'd spoken to a sciatica specialist.
I see.
And the advice was, and this is very ironic, isn't it, for us, was to put a plank of wood behind my back, literally.
Yes, that is ironic.
A short plank of wood,
yeah. Did you have one handy?
Yeah, I found one. And
did you have to go scraping about in the downstairs garage for it?
No. It was an internal piece of wood.
Oh, right, okay.
And it was, in fact, I tell you what it was. It was the top of a stair banister post.
Top of a stair banister post?
Yes.
What is that? What, do you mean the round thing?
No, the flat bit that you put on top of a stair banister post. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Well, you know a set of stairs,
yeah.
And at the top there's a banister, which usually
there's
has
a banister that goes all the way up.
Well, the banister goes up, then there's a post at the top to which it's joined,
yes,
right?
But it normally has a round thing at the top.
No, flat, if in a decent house.
It's like a square thing, then.
Yeah, a square thing, that's right. Yeah.
It's not really a plank. You're using that?
Yeah, I'm using that, yeah.
Isn't it a bit too thick?
No, and it has helped a bit. And so what it means is all the experts who've told me so far, including old Paul Hawksby, that you can't have massage for sciatica problems.
He was the one that was recommending the deep tissue massage.
Well, he said it won't be any good. He did, and then some expert told me it won't do any good. It's far too deep into your body. But anyway, I'm going to get it done, and believe it or not, I may have to go to that massage parlour I was telling you about that opened in Stockbroke about Surrey.
You told me about it, but you haven't told the rest of the listeners about it.
I'm sure
we'll have to
I
get
have.
into that a bit later on.
I'm sure I have, but I mean...
No, you told me about it in great excitement, that they'd opened a massage parlour.
Yes,
but it wasn't one of those kind of massage parlours.
No, it's a proper massage parlour. It advertises all sorts of massages and, physiological
It's kind of a new
things.
age type place.
Yeah, it's a sort of thing, but it is definitely not for the procurement of pleasure or anything like that, you know what I mean? And I want to make that absolutely clear before anybody takes a picture of me going in or out.
Yes, exactly right, because somebody might do that.
They might.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm very happy to know that you're feeling slightly better.
Slightly better.
I presume the pain has moved slightly further down your leg.
Yeah, a little bit,
So can we please make sure that the 1 minute moan is not about your sciatica?
No, it won't be, definitely.
Thank
now,
God
listen, you were very right to highlight an issue there in your opening piece about how long can these line tours go on, because just in the same way that football started trying to cash in on this 25 years ago,
right.
The clubs now that supply the players to the British Lions are determined now that the British Lions, for all the vast amount of money they make from TV rights and all that on these tours, will start paying up.
Yes.
It says here, those in charge of the British and Irish Lions were last night warned by top clubs that there was no prospect of the concept continuing in its present form, i.e. the clubs just released the players, as a matter of duty, national duty in Ireland and throughout Great Britain, and then the players go off for like weeks, because they do.
Because they also, in rugby, I think I'm right in saying they don't have a central contract system, do they? Whereby the national side pays for them.
Like
and then
cricket.
Like cricket. And then the club side just kind of gets them whenever they can.
No. The FA now pay quite considerable sums for the use of players, out of season, all that kind of stuff. Although most of the money given to players for their performance fees goes to charity these days. Right. So but it says here, ahead of the Lions' first test against New Zealand this morning, discussions were taking place. Two of the most senior figures in the domestic game spoke out against rugby's biggest institution being made a special case in a new global calendar after tour chiefs branded moves to reduce the number of fixtures and length of trips as insane and claimed the entire structure could now be killed off.
Right.
So
well, it's only every 4 years, mind you, a Lions tour, isn't it?
Yes, I agree it is. But for that reason, it might make it even more difficult in 4 years' time, when the game has become even more professional, to get this sort of system into operation again.
That wouldn't be a surprise, because it is a bit of. I mean, it's a very old system, the British and Irish Lions, isn't it?
Yes.
And I suppose you might say it's a bit of an anomaly in this day and age, because although it generates great interest and the fans love it and all of that, I mean, it's a bit of a downer, you have to say, after the first result. Well, it's so one-sided that you don't really have much to look forward to. I know we're hearing some of the players and some of the pundits saying afterwards, well, we're quite encouraged by this, and we're looking forward to the second test.
Yes.
Well, I wouldn't be that encouraged by it, to be honest, because New Zealand, it looked to me, were not even playing at full strength.
Yeah, it's one of those occasions when it's better for the first game not to happen, because the expectancy and the anticipation and the build-up and the magic of it all, and then when a result like that comes in, do you know what somebody's done? Somebody's taken a hat pin and they've pricked the balloon of expectancy. And,
well, it wasn't just expectancy. We were told before the game by some people who had been visiting the players in the dressing room, they're very confident of winning this game.
Confident of
British
winning,
and Irish Lions, absolutely confident. They had this great result the England team had against New Zealand back at Twickenham, and this is going to be great, and they have every expectation of winning the game. They never came anywhere near winning it.
I know, and all the tough talk beforehand, bring it on, and all that kind of stuff. It all dissipates now, I'm afraid, into
it does.
a rather, because I was going to pull you up on saying, well, hang on, isn't it a bit of a downer to say now face a 3-0 whitewash? Well, they don't yet, because they've only played one game, so they could still win the series.
Well, technically, they're still facing a whitewash.
Well, there's the possibility of a whitewash, but I think it was a little cruel of you to suggest that their performance today was so poor that you are almost anticipating a whitewash.
I will make a bet with you right now that this is the best result that the Lions get.
The best result? A 15-point defeat?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
Ooh, I think that's a bit harsh.
They got lucky at the end. They got that try right at the end, because it should have really been a much wider deficit.
I think that's a bit harsh, mate. I really do.
Well, you may say that, but I mean, you said it earlier on today that they were going to win. You said earlier on today that it's going to go all the way to the decider.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't.
I've got people tweeting me now telling me that.
I predicted that the Lions would win. I'm not that foolish.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'll find your tweet from earlier on,
Listen, you're absolutely right to point out that since we last sat in the studio, 2 Premier League clubs have new managers.
They do indeed. Well, certainly Southampton have got a new manager. Crystal Palace is still to be sort of signed and sealed, isn't it?
I think it's almost.
I mean, supposedly Mr. De Boer has been offered the job.
Yes,
but he may not accept it.
He may not accept it, but anyway, Pellegrino has moved in at Southampton, right?
Maurizio.
Yeah, Maurizio Pellegrino, Argentine international. Maurizio Pellegrino on a 3-year contract, having seen off competition from Crystal Palace and other clubs across Europe for a manager they believe fits their criteria perfectly, said Southampton spokespeople.
Yeah, you see,
I don't get it.
This tells you something about the way this business works, right? Because everybody's after the same guy that nobody's heard of.
Yes.
Same with Marco Silva. When Marco Silva came to Hull, everyone went, who the hell is this guy?
That's right.
And then suddenly people who were the football snobs of this world said, why haven't you heard of him?
Yes.
He's been very big in Portugal.
That's right.
You should have kept your eyes on him.
That's right.
And people will say the same thing about Pellegrino. Well, why haven't you heard of him? You must be an idiot.
Yeah.
But he hasn't done anything.
No, he hasn't.
So why are more than one club after him?
I don't know.
That's the question I'm asking.
Anyway, the point is, we don't hear a lot from Southampton fans, generally speaking, but we would like to hear from them today, would we not?
We would indeed.
Because we want to know whether this man who's almost anonymous and faceless in football is coming to your club. Having said that, the Southampton board have a track record of making good appointments for managers.
Yes.
Mr. Koeman.
Well, you would say that, wouldn't you?
Well, before him, of course, old Poch.
Pochettino.
So they're 2 outstanding managers that have passed through the Southampton Academy, so to speak. So maybe they have just got the eagle eye for spotting the sort of manager they want.
It all started out so promisingly, but a very disappointing result for the British and Irish Lions, you'd have to say. The first test didn't go well down in Eden Park in Auckland, but it's a very, very difficult place to win. Nobody's won there for an awfully long time. Let's talk now to former British Lion himself, Jason Robinson, who's down at Twickenham. Jason, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. First of all, tell us what's been going on down at Twickenham this morning.
Yeah, well, I've been watching the game down at Twickenham with Dumb Men Plus Care, and we've been giving Woodford Rugby Club the ultimate rugby day. So we've watched the game. We're going to go out into the pitch. We've been in the changing rooms, and not many people have had the opportunity to be on that famous Twickenham pitch. So we're having a great, great morning. Pity about the results.
Yeah.
We can get onto that now.
Yeah, I mean, the expectancy before these things is massive, isn't it, Jason? And sometimes you don't even want the kick-off to come because whilst there's no kick-off, there's great expectancy. But the problem is, now that expectancy bubble's been burst, it's going to be terribly, terribly difficult to pull back from this, isn't it?
It's going to be very difficult, but going over to New Zealand it's one of the biggest challenges of any player, and especially when it comes to the Lions, bringing four nations together, very short space of time. And, it's never going to be easy, but that's the challenge. The Lions won the series in 2013 against Australia. Now they come up against a huge challenge in trying to win a Test series in New Zealand. And New Zealand showed today why they are the number one team in the world. I mean, the Lions did start off well. A couple of missed opportunities, but there's some really good stuff. I thought at times we created a lot of opportunities, but again, we're not able to turn those opportunities into points. And New Zealand, the guys like Reid has been out for so long, comes in, massive impact as a captain, and Barrett just kicking the penalties. But New Zealand, they don't give you much, and if you make mistakes, they turn those mistakes into points. And the Lions were on the back foot. I mean, you look at the stats for the possession territory, and New Zealand were dominant. And it's very difficult to get into a game when the Lions got into good positions and then either spilt the ball or gave a penalty away, and then took the pressure off New Zealand. But again, they just show why they're such a good team, and the Lions now need to not dwell on it too much. I think there's some real positives to take out of that test, but now it's do or die. The second test, if they lose that, then the series is over.
Well, that is the problem, isn't it? I think it was James Haskell who was down in our commentary, with our commentary team down in Eden Park, who's obviously with the team a lot, and he was saying that the sort of the mental attitude before the game was that from the British and Irish Lions point of view, we can win this game. Now, having been sort of fairly well trounced, how does that affect them psychologically? Because if they went into that game thinking they could win it, they can't be going into the second game thinking they can win it, can they?
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, it's professional sport. You've just got to analyse the game. If you look at the amount of opportunities that the Lions created, had some of those been turned into points, all of a sudden the game could have looked a lot different. Had Daly scored in that first 2 minutes, then all of a sudden it puts a bit of pressure on New Zealand. But the key thing is you have to turn that pressure, you have to turn that possession into points. And there are too many times where the Lions created great opportunities and they didn't finish it. And then, you look at the contrast, New Zealand, the sharp, they just switched on, boom, quick tap, out it goes, they scored. All of a sudden, they can hit you from anywhere on the field, and you switch off for a split second, and they'll punish you.
Yeah. Jason, I've come across something this morning which may interest you, and that is that the people who put these tours together are being told by the clubs now, because rugby is now such a professional sport, and it wasn't when the All Lions was formed all those years ago, but the clubs are now saying the All Lions organisers are going to have to pay huge sums of money to take their players on these tours because they take them away for so long, and these players are extremely valuable and very highly paid. Is that something that you can see coming?
I think it's professional sport, and wherever your stars are taken away from your club, then that's probably always going to be the case, and look for some compensation. I know there's a lot of talk about reducing the number of games that the Lions play, and I have to admit I'd be in favour of it. Just taking a couple of games away, I don't think would detract from the Lions tour at all. I think when it comes to the end of the season, the guys have already played a lot of games, and you look at the run-up of games that these guys have had before, three of the biggest matches of your life against New Zealand. They've played some tough games, and some of the players that played today played on Tuesday.
Exactly.
I for me, just take a couple out, it's all about well-being of the players. So let's look after the players and give quality as opposed to quantity.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
You were
with
part of the 2001 tour to Australia under Graham Henry, who was, of course, at the time the Wales coach, Jason. There was a lot of sort of toing and froing back then about whether there were too many Welsh players in the team. Warren Gatland is sort of going to get those similar types of comparisons now, isn't he? We've got quite a few tweets coming in today saying, is it because he's got too many Welsh players in the team? It's difficult to make that balance right, isn't it?
Listen, he's got the hardest job of anybody, and I certainly wouldn't want to be in his shoes. I think the biggest problem came when, the players that were selected recently came from, guys from Wales and Scotland just because they were near, and I think that was a lot of the players were aggrieved just because it should be next in line as opposed to closest to to the match. So I think that rightly a lot of the players will be a bit peeved about that. But it's Warren Gatland. He's not afraid to make big decisions, and he's making them based on what he thinks is right. If the Lions aren't successful, then he's the one that will come under fire. So, but guys like Launchby, he played well for England, played well for Wasps, and you'd have thought he may have been one of the next ones to get a call up. So, when you don't get that call up and you're waiting 4 years, he may never get that opportunity again. So, it's a tough old call. We're all looking, at the team now, and we're analysing everything and picking everything to bits. But the Lions now, with what's just happened in this first test, need to pull together. The players, the management, it's you against New Zealand, the whole of New Zealand. They're going to come in for a lot of stick. The press, I'm sure, will be getting stuck into them saying, the New Zealand only played the second game and put 30 points on you. So, the Lions just need to not panic. They're going to have to pull one out of the bag. There's no doubt about it. But, it's sport. If Ireland showed last November, you get stuck into New Zealand. If you stop that momentum, and really take the game to them, you can beat them. They are beatable. And the Lions just need to believe that and go out and play like that.
This is TalkSport. We are the two Mikes. Got loads and loads of good tweets coming in, of course. Some of them, many of them about the way that you read out the number, of course.
Yes.
Chris says this, great job reading out the phone number, Porky. You get the job reading out the full-time scores.
Yeah, well, that's something that I might have to think about next
Tim
season.
says, what comes after 3-3 in the number? I dozed off.
Oh, really? Well, I'm sorry about that. You should have been paying more attention, shouldn't you?
And Joe says, please let Porky know Pellegrino has been signed and sacked in the time it took him to read out the number.
Yeah, all right. Well, I can believe that, yeah.
And Henry is a bit more unfair to you. He says, when is brain-dead Parry going to move on from the 60s? All he talks about is the Beatles and Everton when they were good.
No, I don't.
It's 2017, not 1967.
I know, and I try to keep it right up to date. For instance, the old Foo Fighters are on tonight, aren't they?
The Foo Fighters are indeed.
That's right, at Glastonbury. I'm looking forward to
that. You know who's their sort of big name, don't you?
Their big name?
Yeah, the guy that's the sort of leader of the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, go on.
We talked about him the other day,
That's
didn't
right,
we?
we did, yeah.
He was in one of those lists, wasn't he?
He was.
He's the drummer.
The drummer.
Well, he does play the drums. He also plays guitar.
Yeah, that's right. He's multi-talented,
You know who I'm talking about, don't you?
Is it Mark?
No, Dave.
Dave, that's right, Dave. Yeah, Dave, yeah. Dave what?
Dave Grohl.
Dave Grohl. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, Dave Grohl.
By the way, I've been sent a very interesting tweet by somebody who's down at Glastonbury, I think, about the Gallagher brothers, because both Gallagher brothers are apparently at Glastonbury.
Yeah.
Noel was there last night introducing the Oasis documentary,
right,
which is called Supersonic.
Yeah.
I think you said you got it at Christmas.
I have got it, yeah.
Have you watched it yet?
No, I haven't yet.
Because I tried to watch it the other night, and I didn't really like the way it started. So
I haven't seen it.
So I haven't put it all the way through. Apparently today, Liam is turning up, but he's going to be on a different stage.
Yes.
So presumably, if they're both staying there, they've had to keep them sort of in separate parts of the camp.
Opposite ends of the Winnebago Trail.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Anyway, listen, I tell you what...
Sorry, is that a boring story?
No, not at all. That's a great story.
Liam Gallagher, the guy you were always talking about.
I know, it's a great story, and you're absolutely right. The only thing I would say is that, as we discussed yesterday, Glastonbury is so huge, it wouldn't be difficult to avoid each other, would it, at such a place?
I'm a bit fed up with it, to be honest.
Well, I'm not fed up with it, because I've never been there. Still think it's a great British occasion, but I think it's an anachronism now, people going and camping in fields full of mud.
Do you know who else
was
was there yesterday? Your mate Ed Balls.
Not only was Ed Balls there, but the deputy leader of the Labour Party, what's his name?
Tom Watson.
Tom Watson was there.
Yeah, well, they're all singing the Jeremy Corbyn song.
I know.
Which has now started to become very irritating. I was thinking about making it my 1 minute moan, but I'd probably be accused of being too political.
Get down with the kids and all that kind of stuff, you know.
I mean, how can they say that this guy who is nearly 70 is one, down with the kids,
right,
two, knows anything about what they're going through, three, who has worked in the Houses of Parliament for most of his working life and has changed nothing about the system, is somehow anti-authoritarian? libertarian?
I've no idea.
He's not.
I've no idea. And lives in a big house.
Went to a posh school, was raised in a country manor in Gloucestershire.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's absolutely incredible.
Well, yeah, but the whole system is, the whole thing in this country is all so upside down now. Nobody quite knows
By the
which
way,
way they're...
before anybody accuses me of being anti-Corbyn, I think I probably dislike him less than I dislike Theresa May, so don't get me started on her.
Well, you know what? I'm talking to my political friends, and shuffling for position for the leadership of the Labour Party is now getting interesting. You know, obviously with Boris, with Philip Hammond, who's
the Tories, not the Labour Party.
Yeah, sorry, the Tories. Yeah, with Boris, with Philip Hammond, with Amber Rudd.
Yeah,
all these people shuffling around.
Well, now the Labour Party, who were those that wanted to get rid of Jeremy Corbyn, they're all now going, what a great guy he is.
Well, they kind of are, but I mean, they're all circling the wagons as well. Listen, I want to tell you about a great story I've come across.
Yeah,
right?
go on.
On this absolutely, rings with me, so true. This guy turns up in California, right?
Yeah.
Rudy Kearney-Arwen.
Rudy
Kearney-Arwen. After going to a few dinner parties, realises that most people in California are mad, as I always say they are. So he invents a wine company and starts selling them bottles of wine for £67,500.
Right.
Because he realises that the personality of people in California is always to be better than your neighbour.
Yeah.
So what?
You get on well there then.
Yeah, that's a bit harsh.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, he's now in jail because it was one massive fraud. He made tens of millions of pounds.
He's in jail?
Yeah, he's in jail. He made
tens. Hang on, why is he in jail?
Well, I'll tell you, he made tens of millions of pounds because he would buy bottles of an unimpressive 70-year-old wine, mix it with a wonderfully florally cheap young Burgundy, combine the two, put them together, put them in a bottle, and tell somebody it's worth £67,500.
Yeah, but forgive me for suggesting that this is maybe an idiotic thing to say. But I mean, how is that in any way illegal?
Well,
surely it's caveat emptor.
No, because the label on the bottle was saying Petrus. You see what I mean? And
I see.
Inside,
so he was pretending it was actually something that it wasn't.
Absolutely.
Oh, right.
So billionaire collectors beat a path to his door, and Rudy lived the high life. Indonesian of Chinese descent with long black hair. He was driving around in Lamborghinis. He owned Ferraris, Aston Martins, penthouses all over the place, Hermes jackets, right? He bought a £6 million mansion in Bel Air, while his main home near Los Angeles was adorned with artwork by Andy Warhol, Damien Hirst and Ed Rushka. The problem was the wine was actually cheap rubbish, and the way he got away with it, this is somebody's account of it, he got away with it for so long because most people who buy a £67,000 bottle of wine never open it.
Right.
So you don't know what's inside.
No, so they don't drink it. No, because in a way, you can see why it's too valuable.
It's too valuable,
because they might at some point want to sell it on to somebody.
Well, they keep it as an investment or as a trophy in their wine cellar. Even on the odd occasion when it is opened, there are only a handful of people in the world who actually know what a 1921 Petrus wine should taste like.
Well, that's very true.
So nobody else.
I mean, I'm certainly not one of them.
Exactly.
I don't know what it should taste like.
And most dinner guests at these lavish parties would never insult their host by criticising such a rare vintage.
Yeah.
Rudy's victims were naive, propelled by wishful thinking that he had found mythical wines, but you can't blame them. In almost every case, his victims had no way of knowing what was in the bottle and what the wines tasted like.
Yes.
In the early 2000s, the wine market soared as investors drove up prices. A single bottle of 1945 Chateau Mouton Rothschild, this was a real one, by the way, was sold for £244,000.
Right, and I bet that hasn't been drunk yet either.
Well, I don't know.
What's the most expensive bottle of wine you've ever bought?
Oh, most expensive bottle of wine I bought?
Yes.
In a restaurant?
Either or.
Probably in a restaurant, about £85.
Okay.
Outside of a restaurant.
And what was it?
Well, that would have been...
You don't know, do you?
No, I don't actually, but it would have been a red because I never buy expensive.
But why would you
white.
have bought an £85 bottle of wine that you didn't know?
Probably because I was trying to impress the young lady who was dining with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But outside...
It was when you started buying the fourth one that she probably thought,
That's right,
this guy might not be quite the connoisseur that I thought.
Yeah, exactly, and started drinking out of a cup.
Yeah.
But outside, I would never pay more than about £10 for a bottle of wine in the supermarket. Never.
No.
And in fact, last night on the way home, I fancied a tincture, so I got a £12.50 bottle of Fleury.
Oh, Fleury?
Yes, Fleury, yes.
£12.50?
Yes.
Where'd you buy that from?
Marks and Spencer's.
Really? That's very expensive for a bottle of Fleury.
Is it?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
You shouldn't pay that kind of money for a bottle of Fleury.
Fleury can be very expensive.
No,
but unfortunately, it was one of these sort of Marks and Spencer's mini ones at the station. You see what I mean?
What do you mean? It was in a garage?
No, it was in the station actually, next to the station. Right. So they
probably mark it up.
Yeah, exactly. They only have a few bottles, and the thing is, what they've worked out is people come out the station, get straight into their taxi to go to their stockbroker belt home, and they can't be bothered.
Or their tenement, cladded flat block of flats.
No, come on, be fair. And they can't be bothered to just walk down the high street, to a local shop. So they just pick up a bottle in the in the Marks and Spencers and dash in the taxi and they're away.
Right.
So
are you going to ask me if I've ever bought an expensive wine, or don't you care?
That was my next question.
Was it?
Have you ever bought an expensive wine?
Yes, I have, yeah.
And what have you bought?
I bought a bottle of Prunier Montrachet once for £100 in
where?
a restaurant.
Where?
In Roast, actually, that place near in Borough Market, which sells an awful lot of very nice English wine.
So you were just out for a few beers one day and decided
I was
£100 bottle of...
I was out for dinner and I just fancied, an expensive bottle of wine. And it was really good, actually.
Yeah.
Because I like Prunier Montrachet. And then the most expensive bottle I'd say I bought in an off-licence. I bought in Odd Bins, actually, for Piers Morgan's birthday party.
Oh, yeah.
Because I thought the best thing is buy him a nice bottle of wine.
Right,
So I spent about 80 quid on a bottle of wine, which he said was lovely.
Is that right? Yes. You know that people who used to like to impress Sir Alex Ferguson in the football world would always take him a very good bottle of red.
Yeah, Mourinho used to always do that, didn't he?
Mourinho, I think he did a lot. But one time there was a dinner, and who was the referee? The thing from Tring.
The thing from Tring?
Yeah.
I don't know. You don't mean Howard Webb?
No. Before him, he was very controversial. He writes a column in the Daily Mail now. I've just completely forgotten his name.
No, I know the guy. He's on Talk Sport a lot.
Yeah, he is on
Hawksby and Jacobs.
He comes on Hawksby and Jacobs a lot. And he let Wayne Rooney say the F word 15 times to him without sending him off because he said he was swearing to himself, not the referee. I'll remember his name in a sec. But a great guy. And in fact, I saw him at the Football Writers' Dinner just a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
But he... he used to tell me sometimes you went to the football manager's annual dinner or something like that. People were queuing up there to give Fergie a bottle of fine wine.
Really?
And he'd sometimes go in with 10 bottles or 12 bottles or something,
Why would they want to try and suck up to him?
Well, everybody wants to impress Sir Alex Ferguson, I suppose. He's the most successful manager in British football. And, of course, Fergie recently sold part of his collection, didn't he? Graham Pole, that's it, the thing from Tring. He sold quite a big part of his wine collection quite recently.
He did indeed.
Yeah.
Davey says this.
Yes.
Have you invested in a couple of GoPros for your Motorbike Chronicles on Monday?
Well,
hopefully we're going to try and get one at least, aren't we?
Funny enough, we have somebody out on a mission at the moment to get a GoPro.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stick it on Mr. Graham's head. Yeah. Well, not literally on his head. I'm going to stick it on his helmet. Yeah.
We'll see.
And we're going to...
You might put it on the handlebars.
Oh, you can put it on handlebars, can you?
Well, you can put it on anything.
Oh, so I thought you told me to get one to stick on the helmet.
You can stick on a helmet, but you might have the cab company might say you can't do that.
I see. Yeah, because it's their helmet.
There's all sorts of riders that have to be sorted out.
Yes.
I mean, you seem to be very cavalier about this. Two guys just going to turn up.
Yeah.
With the sort of might as well be on horseback.
Yeah.
We're just going to get on the back. And you don't think there's any insurance implications? Don't you think there's any kind of, health and safety scenarios?
Yeah, but if you spend any time doing those, that negates the point of getting a motorbike to get us back here quickly.
All I'm saying is that you have to be aware of the fact that there might be rules and regulations. It's not the Wild West we're getting involved in.
I have spoken to
Peter Fonda that's going to show up.
I've spoken to the person who owns the company.
Have you?
And everything is in order.
Really?
Because I organise things properly.
Are you sure?
Yeah, if I left it to you, how would you have got us back from Isleworth on Monday morning?
The last thing I would have driven, actually, because I could drive from there to here, I bet you, any money in about half an hour.
Yeah, rubbish.
It's true.
Utter rubbish. Not at rush hour on Monday morning.
Because I know the back routes.
Nah.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics, and it's the warm-up, of course. We've got lots going on. We're going to have a one-minute moan a little bit later on. Rory reminds us that it was Graham Pole you're thinking of.
That's
and Darb says, Mike Parry says, I wouldn't pay more than a tenner for a bottle of wine. Last night I bought one for £12.50.
Yeah, sorry about that. I meant white, actually.
There's a bit of inconsistency
Wouldn't pay more than a tenner for a bottle of white wine, but red I go a bit more.
There we are. Now, I'm delighted to say it's time to talk to Eleanor Mills, the editorial director of the Sunday Times. I'm surprised, in a way, Eleanor, that you're not calling us from Glastonbury, but a very good morning to you nonetheless.
I have been known to go to Glastonbury. Actually, I've been in Cannes all week.
Have you? I see. A bit of a name dropper.
How the other half live. It's very nice, isn't
that's
it?
Right.
What a wonderful thing.
Eleanor, before we talk about this week's paper, can I just say that after we spoke last week, I read the whole of the John McEnroe interview, right? And it was brilliant. And what was great about it was the way it was laid out. So it was, McEnroe on Andy Warhol, McEnroe on Richard Branson, you know what I mean? And it was so easy to read. I sometimes get put off reading pages of black and white print. So honestly, it was brilliant.
Oh, brilliant. No, we tried to do it in bite-sized chunks so you could kind of go to the bits that you were interested in.
Absolutely.
Some people are more interested
There
in
you
sport,
go.
some people have things. And it was a good story, wasn't it?
Oh,
Him
brilliant.
kind of saying Murray was only number 4.
Yes, and a distant fourth and all that kind of stuff, it was great.
And Murray responded, so that's what we always like.
He did at his press conference. At his press conference before Queen's, that's right, yeah. Right.
Now, very good. Now, you've got some great stuff this weekend, including a sort of appreciation of 20 years of Harry Potter. Hard to believe it's 20 years.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, tomorrow is exactly 20 years since the first book was published. And what we've got is 6 different kids talking about how Harry Potter saved their lives. It's really moving. So there's a young girl who came over from Poland when she was 8, and she couldn't speak any English. And the only thing she really had in common with her classmates was that she'd read Harry Potter in Polish and they'd read it in English. And she had 2 books side by side, and it was how she taught herself English. And she's now become an English teacher.
Yeah,
so it was really sweet. And another girl who was very badly bullied and really... And all the girls talk about how they really associated with Hermione Granger, who was clever and made it okay to be clever. And they all talk about Harry Potter's characters all being outsiders and therefore it allowing them to deal with complicated problems at school.
Yeah, absolutely super.
I remember back in, I suppose it must have been the late, very late 80s, I guess, and being handed a book, the first Harry Potter book, by a guy called Mark Palmer, who at the time was at the Express, who's now at the Mail, I think.
Wasn't he part of the Biscuit family?
He was the Huntley Palmer's Mark Palmer, You may know him, Eleanor. I think he's a travel editor of Daily Mail now. And he handed me this book and said, give this to your daughter, because our kids were the same age.
Yes.
It's going to be the next big thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, all right then. And I gave it to her, and she's now 26, and she's been a Harry Potter fan ever since she read this first book, and she has always thanked me for being ahead of her time.
Absolutely.
Because nobody else had heard about it at that point.
Yeah. But it's much more than just a book title now, isn't it? It's an empire. It's it's as famous now as, Disneyland, isn't it? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they've been an amazing franchise. And we've also got a really good podcast where we've got lots of the kids talking about it.
Excellent.
And also the publicist from Bloomsbury at the time talking about the complete madness outside bookshops.
Right.
Because, of course, people would queue around the block, people get up in the middle of the night, kids would read them through the night to be the first person to read it. I mean, it has been a real defining thing for that generation, which I think is really interesting.
It certainly has. Now, the Spalding murders, Eleanor, you're going to have to refresh my memory on this one, please.
Well, this is this really awful Bonnie and Clyde case where the boyfriend and the daughter murdered the mother and the younger sister.
I remember it.
In Spalding.
I remember it.
And it was, at the time, everyone was anonymous and we couldn't say anything about it. But I've had a reporter up there who's spoken to all the families involved.
Right.
And it really is a chilling case, but it gives a real insight into the minds of those teenage killers.
Weren't they very gruesome-looking people, almost witch-like, long straggly hair and all that kind of stuff? Is that my memory?
Well, no. Weirdly enough, they're not. They could be your son and daughter on Facebook.
Oh, really?
That's what's so chilling about it.
Right.
They look like a kind of quite sweet, normal, kind of young teenage couple, and they're actually what they did was absolutely appalling.
It makes it all the worse. Makes it all the worse.
Cut the vocal cords of the mother and the younger sister.
Oh my God!
So they couldn't scream. I mean, it's really gruesome, but it's a great read.
Yeah, I bet it is. Yeah,
I bet it is. Now you've also got a couple of interesting sort of tete-a-tetes, if you like. Jeremy Clarkson on Richard Hammond and Rod Liddle talking to Jeremy Paxman.
Yes. So the hamster, Clarkson, is absolutely damning, as you would expect. He says that he keeps having these crashes because he's so short he can't see over the steering wheel. And we've done a whole very vintage Clarkson, and we've done a whole list of all Hammond's favourite, famous crashes. Yeah. And what was really ridiculous about the latest one is that, of course, it never needed to happen. He'd already finished the course, and he decided to go on a jolly round another bend and came off at about 120 miles an hour. So he was jolly lucky it wasn't worse.
He certainly was, yeah.
Well, I actually watched it, and it's a bizarre kind of crash because it looks as though he's almost just not tried to go around the bend. I mean, obviously, you can't tell how fast he's going just because it's on film, but the car just seems to drift off the bend.
Yeah, and go fly down the hill. But he's fractured his leg in several places, and the real disaster, as far as Clarkson's concerned, is that, of course, Hammond won't be able to do loads of the filming for their grand tour on Amazon.
Yes.
So Clarkson and May are having to fill in for all Hammond's stunts.
Yes.
So I think that's a real blow to the whole production of the next series. So it's a very funny piece.
I think it is. And Rod Liddle, who's one of my favourite writers, I read his column every week in Spectator. I hope he has dissected the pomposity of Jeremy Paxman to the nth degree.
Yeah, we've actually got him on the cover, and the cover says, answer the question, Jeremy.
Right.
Kind of quite ratty with him. So that's good fun.
Yeah, I should...
Great stuff. Well, Eleanor, have a lovely weekend.
Yes, thank you, Eleanor.
You'll just have to watch Glastonbury on TV this weekend, I suppose. The Foo Fighters alongside Jeremy Corbyn.
The old Foo Fighters tonight.
I'm worried about
Foo, where are you?
Is that what they fans shout, is it?
Yeah,
I'm slightly worried about this motorcycle trip of yours that you've organised. That we'll end up the same way as Hammond. Maybe we'll not do any work.
Well, you may.
Because we'll go spinning off going around Marble Arch.
I'm an experienced motorcycle...
You've never been... When was the last time you were on the back of a motorbike?
Of course I owned a motorbike.
No, you didn't. You owned a scooter.
Well, no, I owned... okay. I mean, it's one where you put your feet on the platform in front of you, okay?
You owned a Lambretta, didn't you?
It was a Lambretta, actually, yeah. But somebody nicked it.
Like a hairdryer.
Yeah, it was a bit like... It was like a sewing machine, actually. It used to go...
Yeah, exactly. That is not what you would call a motorbike.
Yeah, but I know road sense, you see what I mean? Because I was on two wheels.
Road sense.
Now, what you have to do is, all the time, you take the dominant position on the road.
Yours will probably get a puncture.
No, yeah, probably will, yeah. You take the dominant position in the road, you don't give in to bullying drivers behind you, flashing their lights at you.
Really?
Okay?
Yeah.
And, don't bank too low on those scooters, because otherwise the board, so to speak, will scrape the road.
So, as usual, you're going to be in an aggressive position, basically.
No.
And that's what causes accidents.
No, but I will make gestures to motorists if I feel that they are in any way trying to intimidate me.
Yeah, well, don't do that.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Don't start winding up the motorists,
yeah.
OK? Pete says this, if Porky's sorting out motorbikes for Monday, who's sorting out your cover when you're late? It's a good question. Tom says, can you imagine the amount of wine that Porky has given to various dignitaries to try and impress them?
No.
Hey, by the way, have you seen that story from the latest from Qatar? That they now all of the these people that are boycotting Qatar.
That's right,
they now want them to shut down Al Jazeera. They want to shut it down.
No, I read that 10 days ago.
No, this was yesterday's story.
No, I read 10 days ago. Al Jazeera was, all under attack and all that.
Yeah.
And is Al Jazeera, in fact, be in sport?
Well, I'm afraid so.
Which is what Richard and Andy work
for. The same organisation.
Oh, dear, it's getting worse.
Yeah, but there's no comment so far from that part of the world, but we'll try and get some.
We certainly will.
It'd be a massive story if they shut down Al Jazeera.
Yes, certainly
this is
would,
Talk Sport.
You can go your own way.
Talk Sport, we are the two mics on the warm-up. We've got lots more coming up, of course, including the 1 Minute Moan a little bit later on. We've also got Rusty Furman coming up in this hour. There's a film called 6 Days coming out very shortly about the Iranian embassy siege, which you covered, of course, as
I did, actually.
A young reporter.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Why are we playing Fleetwood Mac?
Well, playing Fleetwood Mac because, believe it or not, it is the 70th birthday of Mick Fleetwood.
Oh, is it?
The original co-founder of the group.
Oh, yeah.
And... their most successful record ever was Rumours. That came out in 1977. It was, the biggest selling LP in the world for a while, and they were the biggest band in the world at the time. But the amazing thing is, I read only the other day of an interview with Mick Fleetwood, presumably because it was his 70th birthday was coming up, and he said, I didn't have any regret at all about having a fling with Stevie Nicks, who, of course, was the lead singer, you know what I mean?
Right.
And neither did Stevie. And we still get together and we still sing and perform. And,
well, they probably can't remember half of it.
Well, I should imagine so, yeah, as you quite rightly say. But, I mean, that was another, band that's kind of fell apart and then got back together again, all because of internal relationships. Because, of course, two members of the band were married, weren't they?
They were indeed.
Lindsay Buckingham and
well, it was a bit like one of those...
was it? Was that right?
Eh?
Lindsay Buckingham and Christine
McVie.
Who
is the other half of the Mac, right?
Fleetwood
Mac.
Yeah, this year's, yeah. So was it Christine McVie married to John McVie?
I don't know, really.
And Lindsay Buckingham was the...
I never took that much interest in the
guy.
Inside workings of these bands.
No,
I just used to listen to their music.
Well, I think they're fascinating.
Well, I know you do, but the trouble is you don't know what the stories are.
Well, I do, because I read Mick Fleetwood's story,
right.
and he went completely bankrupt. And his autobiography opens with him sitting on the pavement in somewhere like Malibu,
right.
watching the removal lorries taking all the furniture out of his house before it was repossessed.
Hey, speaking of bankruptcies, you never mentioned Boris Becker this week. He's been bankrupt, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been
Which is a remarkable story.
Well,
I said one day wonder, that story, because it was all over the papers, I think, yesterday.
Yes.
Or the day before. And now it's kind of disappeared. And it's one of these weird bankruptcies, which is one you can't quite believe, right?
Well, he said afterwards, I don't know why they've done this. I've easily got the funds to settle whatever the payment that he had to pay was.
Yeah.
He's got lots of property, he said. I could have remortgaged some property, got some money out of that. I read years ago that he had a place on Mallorca or Ibiza, I can't remember, worth about £9 million.
Yeah.
And he was trying to flog it because he didn't want it anymore. I mean, he's had such a colourful life.
He certainly has.
You know, I mean, conceiving children in cupboards in restaurants in London, all that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, and
also
the fact that everybody now knows about that is quite remarkable.
Well, he's never hidden it. And
no, that's what I mean. But he came out, he told everyone the story.
He told the story, and he now, whenever he goes out and his little girl's with him, she's a beautiful little girl, and he doesn't have any problem with it at all.
No, indeed.
But no, getting back to the old the Fleetwood Mac thing, I think they're still going strong, so they'll probably be around for quite a long time.
Well, they are still touring,
yeah.
absolutely. I'm sure they will be.
Yeah. Now, you want to tell me about Wayne Rooney, because you've got a thought on it.
Well, I have. I was reading a piece just this morning, funnily enough, about how Manchester United are not very keen to offload Wayne Rooney.
Yeah.
Mainly because the asking price that they want for him is never going to be met by anyone. It's a little bit like the situation with Ross Barkley. You know, Everton may end up holding on to him because nobody wants to pay $50 million. Now, I'm not sure what the asking price would be for Wayne Rooney, but whatever it is that they want, nobody wants to pay. And similarly, nobody wants to pay him the $300,000 plus a week that he's making from Man United.
I think that's the main problem.
Yeah.
I think that's the main problem. I think Manchester United would offer him a very cheap transfer fee. You know what I mean?
Well, you mean they'd let him go for not very much money?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, but like John Terry will leave Chelsea for not very much money because A, it's a thank you for all you've done, but B, it releases a huge amount of money off the payroll. You know what I mean?
It does.
So, but the problem is Wayne Rooney is locked into a contract which can pay him up to £300,000 a week. Now you have to remember.
Well, plus the rest, I dare say, from things like image rights and whatever else. The other commercial opportunities.
Somebody told me that his weekly salary maxes out at $367,000 a week. So I mean, you're right. There's the sort of bolt-ons and that kind of stuff. But the problem is that it's not just Wayne Rooney who benefits from this. His advisors and his agents and his strategists.
Because he's no doubt got quite a lot of people on his payroll.
Well, of course he has, and all that kind of stuff. And I think they'll have to come to the same agreement. It's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody in their right mind is going to pay Wayne Rooney £367,000 a week. Not because I don't think I'm saying he's not worth it. It's just that for what he's got to offer for a very limited period of time, it wouldn't be a commercially sensible thing to do.
Well, I mean, he's been pretty much dropped by Gareth Southgate, right? Yeah. So he's not really got a place in the England squad. He's unlikely to go to the World Cup finals in Russia. We may talk more about that coming up.
No, he won't go.
No.
He knows he's not going.
So, I mean, if you're in the position of a Premier League manager, why on earth would you hire him? Because he's not going to fit into any kind of concept that you might have of playing in the Premier League, is he?
You'd still want him at your club just to impress the young players and all that kind of stuff. But the difficulty is going to be getting over the $367,000 a week because although, he could come to a new deal, he doesn't do the deals. His agent does, and his agent has an interest in in
keeping the price high.
Because the agent's a businessman, and they work out the fact that hang on, you've only got 2 years more earning power. If we knock one of them off and lose $367,000. When you're 50, you might need that money.
Well,
so
you say that. I mean, he's got a very wealthy man, and I'm not
very
going to,
wealthy,
I have no reason to say that he shouldn't have the right to be a wealthy man. But should there not be some rule that kicks in? Say, for example, if you play less than a certain number of games, that your money then goes down incrementally.
Well, that depends on how you negotiate the contract when you're signing. And there clearly isn't an agreement like that. The other problem, of course, which has got him caught now, is that you must have read that the Chinese government have now imposed a 100% tax on all transfer fees paid out of China, which means you double the price of the. So if they want to pay him $600,000 a week in China, it's actually going to be $1,200,000.
Well, it's going to be 1.2 billion.
Yeah, exactly. 1.2 million.
1.2 million, which is rather a lot of money. Even for the Chinese.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
But it just seems to me that we're seeing now people like Joe Hart, Wayne Rooney, possibly even Ross Barkley, and I'm sure we can probably name another 5 or 6 if we thought about it, who are maybe going to find themselves trapped and unable to play football
I think you're right.
and unable to therefore advance their career.
I think you're right.
Not so important for Wayne Rooney because he's nearer the end of it, but for somebody like Joe Hart and for Ross Barkley, they're potentially sort of blocking themselves from playing football.
Have they been hung by their own petard?
Well, I hoisted by their
own petard.
I think
so?
they might well have been.
Yeah,
and I think football will come to the point where, despite the fact that every year the Premier League gets wealthier and wealthier, I think for some reason, right, what we will see is people actually taking pay cuts because they'll have to. At the moment, they're not doing it because nobody's doing it.
No.
But I think they'll have to. I'd quite like to hear some thoughts on that, to be honest.
Yeah. I think Wayne Rooney, if left to his own devices, he would take a massive pay cut and go somewhere where he could play football.
And I think it's time that the players started to tell the agents, look, matey, you work for me. Well, and if you want to make money for the next 10 years as opposed to the next 1 year, then you'll do what I tell you.
Well, the only thing I'd say about that is that Paul Stretford, who basically has run Wayne Rooney's professional career ever since he was about 14 or 15, I think. A bit older than that, I think, about 16, 17. has never put a foot wrong as far as Wayne Rooney's concerned. Wayne Rooney regards him as his best friend, and he's not going to go to him and start, having a fallout about the current situation. He's entrusted him implicitly to steer his life all these years, and I think he's going to leave it to him to try and sort this out.
Well, let's see what happens. Don't you think that I'm right, though, that basically there should be some mechanism by which individual players can lower their own wages?
Yeah, I do.
Without, I'm not asking you, I'm asking the audience.
Oh, yeah, I see.
I want the audience to answer. I'm not asking you.
Oh, right,
I know
okay.
you think that every question I ask is poised to you.
Yes.
But it's not always. Sometimes you want the audience to help out as well.
Well, in that case, why don't you put the number out?
I'm about to.
Okay, do you want me to?
Why don't you do it? Yeah.
Okay, the number is, please, give us a call. Should individual players have the right to just say, no, slash my wage, I don't want to go and play football because I like playing every week. I don't want to be sitting on a bench for 12 months. If you've got a view on that, give us a call here at Talk Sport. The number is 08717 22 33 4.
Very good.
Burnish it on your brain.
Yes, a couple of people have been moaning, actually. Some guy said that he was trying to phone his mother yesterday and he ended up ringing here because he's got this number burnished on his brain.
There you go. You see.
One from Pete says, I need to nip out for some milk so I don't miss anything. Can you get Porky to read out the number again?
Yeah, that's right.
And David says, how about this one? The red arrows have just flown over my work in Doncaster.
Yeah.
They were that low, it set off a lot of the car alarms.
Wow, that's pretty. Have you ever seen the red arrows?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen them a few times.
Yes, I've seen them. I saw them practice I saw them practice once, brilliantly actually, over Hastings Beach.
Okay.
Because it was a week before the Eastbourne Air Show that they were going to do.
Right.
And what a spectacular show it was.
Absolutely spectacular.
They did the whole thing.
I saw them.
They ran through the whole repertoire, as you would say.
The repertoire. I saw them at Bournemouth on the day that the last Vulcan bomber ever took to the skies.
Yes, I've got that as well. In fact, I've got that on film.
Have you?
Yeah, I've got a Vulcan bomber flying over Hastings as well.
Oh, right. Well, I've got the picture of the Vulcan bomber taking off that day. It'll never fly again.
Yeah,
what
superb. Now, we just mentioned the red arrows there. Interestingly enough, Ian has just sent us a tweet that says, Hi, Mike, says the red arrows are on their way to Liverpool for Armed Forces Day today, which is what makes sense.
Yes,
it's Armed Forces Day up in Liverpool.
Certainly
and by coincidence, we're about to speak to a former member of the Armed Forces, Mr. Rusty Furman, former SAS soldier, backdoor assault team leader. He was involved in the Iranian embassy siege, of course. B Squadron in the SAS, HQ Squadron as well. He was in the Commandos, the Royal Artillery Regiment, all sorts of interesting times.
Was he in the Boy Scouts?
Well, you better not ask him that to his face.
Exactly.
Because he still has 26 ways to kill you.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
Rusty, very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Thanks very much for joining us, Rusty. I apologise on behalf of my rather inept co-presenter.
It was just a joke. Rusty, can I tell you, and this is absolutely factual, I saw you go into the Iranian embassy siege. I was working for the Birmingham Evening Mail in London, sent me down there, and I stayed there 5 days. I camped out in a telephone box on just outside the Royal Albert Hall, and the moment you went in, I saw you go in. So that was a moment of history. How do you remember it?
Yeah, no, I remember it obviously very clearly. We were at the back door, actually, when the go command came.
Right.
After 6 days, I think most of the guys, because it went on for 6 days, nobody knew how long it was going to go on for. Mm. But once we got the command go, then, it's a team of guys that were highly motivated and ready to go on the command, and that's exactly what happened. Almost sort of unstoppable, really.
Yeah. Where had you been practicing this?
We've been practicing in London, basically, down at the Regent's Park Barracks in them days. And certain stuff we practiced down there, but not much further than that, because nobody knew exactly what was going to happen, and sort of deadlines came and went. Yeah. And of course, you've got to be ready to react very quickly.
Indeed. When you got in there, Rusty, how did you differentiate between hostages and the terrorists?
Well, over the 6 days, obviously. We had a lot of information came in, a lot of intelligence that was disseminated by certain individuals, and then there's certain stuff that went on different boards for us to go and stare at and look at faces, look at what they're wearing, being aware of what weapons they might be carrying, and that went on day in, day out.
Did you actually drill holes through the wall from the building next door, so you had micro cameras which gave you a view of the room?
There was certain stuff like that going on. That wasn't us, nothing to do with us.
Right.
That was the spooks of the day. That was their job. All we needed to know is basically who they are, what the terrorists are, how many hostages, how many terrorists, what weapons they've got, and that for us, and identification, that for us was paramount. The big picture outside of that is nothing to do with us. We want to know the basics of what we need to do to go out and carry out the mission, which, don't forget, was to rescue the hostages.
Yes.
So we needed to know what we were up against, and the guys who provided that information did a really good job.
Right.
Because information is power, after all. And I mean, I don't know how much you know about this new movie, 6 Days, coming out in August, but you've been involved in movies before. I was reading, Rusty, that you were involved with Mel Gibson as his security advisor when he was making Braveheart.
That's right, yeah. Up in Ben Nevis was the set for that years ago.
Were you protecting him from the real Scotsman who were asking him why he was playing their hero?
Yes.
Well, I don't think they had a Scotsman who could do it, I'll be honest. No. But, he's a nice enough guy. Spent quite a bit of time up there with him, on and off. Mm-hmm. And, Braveheart was back in the 90s. And, a real gentleman to work with. Right. And... But to go forward to 6 days, which you asked about, I did some advising on it, along with some consultants from the SAS who, way back in end of 2014, got a call, and it's all down to do with the book, really. So they said they've, that's where the inspiration for the film came from.
Okay.
Which is Go, 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 the book.
Yeah.
And of course, it's taken a long time, but the book didn't come out till 2010, which was to commemorate the 30th anniversary of the siege. So it's been out 7 years, of which 2.5 to 3 years has been the film on the cards through to being finished now. And I've been involved with it, as I say, and at the moment doing a little bit of promotion work on it, and did some with Jamie Bell himself back in London a couple of weeks ago. So I know the ins and outs of the film really well.
Yeah, so hopefully it's going to be a pretty exciting movie. What about the SAS now, Rusty, in terms of what they can do and
do
what
they still hold the world respect?
Yeah, and what you could do back in your day, because it seems now that, there's a lot more kind of transparency required from the armed forces, a lot more, shall we say, scrutiny on every operation that ever gets done, to a much lesser extent, it seems to me, than there was in your day.
Yeah, well, in my day, it was different. You do what you do, that comes and goes. And, having spent 15 years in the SAS, whatever came and went in my time, we got on with and did. It just happens to be that the Iranian embassy siege is probably the highlight, certainly, of my career and a lot of other guys' careers. But moving forward to the guys now, I'm absolutely in awe of what they do. I don't follow them at all, and I don't talk about them and what their operations are. But I do hear certain stories of certain friends of mine. And you know what? The guys are worth every penny, and they put their life on the line all the time, and, with amazing results.
Yeah.
So the SAS is still the SAS, and... yes, and I agree with, the disclosures and stuff nowadays. My stuff is 37 years old, It's outside the 30-year rule, as we used to call it.
Yeah.
So I don't have any worries on that side. And, of course, all those years ago, what we did now is just being brought to light in a film, which a lot of people have said it should have been done years ago.
Absolutely.
And, of course, they tried that. Well, I beg your pardon, but I call it a Mickey Mouse film, the Who Dares Wins film. And they turned it inside out, and it became the American hostage, the whole thing.
Right.
And now they've done 6 days, which I believe there'll be a lot of people go to watch it. I've got no doubt about that.
No, I think they will.
Whatsoever.
I think they will, absolutely right. Rusty, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much,
Furman, former member of the SAS Blue Team, of course. Go, Go, Go is the name of the book. And the name of the film is 6 Days, comes out in August. Got a great tweet here from Guna Mel, who says, who's playing Porky's role in the movie? Hashtag weirdo in the phone box.
Yeah, I love that. I love it.
Yeah, maybe you could play yourself.
Yeah, maybe I could.
You go and do a cameo.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to do the 1 minute moan. There's been plenty to moan about. We might talk a bit more about Glastonbury as well. First of all, though, we're going to take some calls because I was talking earlier about Wayne Rooney and the difficulties that some players are going to have in the future.
They certainly are.
Joe Hart as well, possibly Ross Barkley, because they're charging too much money. Simple as that. Let's talk to Paddy, who's a Liverpool fan. Hi, Paddy.
Hello, how's things?
Yeah, very good,
pretty good, mate.
What would you like to say?
It was just a point on the players' wages getting cut. The less games they play. I think that if you have had a long career scoring goals, getting honours, playing well, you've earned the right to earn that money.
Right.
So whether you're playing less as time goes on, you've earned the right to earn that money on a weekly basis. So
yeah, but that's not really fair, Paddy, because what you're saying is that somebody who makes an amount of money, say per year, at the height of their talent, should get exactly the same money as they're climbing all the way back down when they're not doing the same job. So I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, but they have worked hard to get to the stage where they're at.
I agree with you.
Surely they deserve to earn the money.
Well, the point is, if the employer, Paddy, thinks they're going to be valuable for X number of years, and they jointly sign a contract saying for those X number of years you'll be regarded as worth this to our company, to our football club, then they have to justify it right to the end. You can't just suddenly, after 2 of the 3 years, say, actually, we're not so sure you're any good anymore. I mean, that's the problem of the employer, not the footballer.
Yeah, but I genuinely do believe that the footballer has earned his right to earn that money on a weekly basis.
Yeah, but Paddy, what the result of that then is that the footballer himself is unable to play perhaps for a lesser club or maybe a little bit less football rather than a little bit more football, because they're pricing themselves out of the market. So they're actually stitching themselves up, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I understand. But some players will sit and earn the £350,000 a week until the contract just runs out.
Yes, they will.
And then go to a smaller club, and then they'll earn less.
Yeah, I mean, the point is, if we were talking about smaller sums of money, I would say, well, the footballer will just shrug his shoulders and say, yeah, I'm going and go and get a job somewhere else. But it's such a huge amount of money, you can't, you simply can't go home to your wife and say, by the way, I'm giving up 350 grand a week because I want to play football every week, you know?
Well, when you've got, when you've already got 35, 50 million in the bank, the wife's going to just have to go, all right then, dear.
Some people would say you've got to capitalise on what you're worth in life right the way through your life, and you just don't throw it away, which is what he'd be doing if he went somewhere else. Yeah. Paddy, thank you very much indeed.
My problem with all of that, really, is that what you're doing is you're perpetuating a system which creates waste. Well, and it basically means that what you're going to do is, instead of having a footballer like Wayne Rooney, pass on whatever it is that he knows, the gifts that he's learned, the talent that he's got, to younger players perhaps at another club where he's paid a little bit less money, he's just going to sit on his backside, probably not even on the bench most of the time, not really extracting anything out of his life. He's not going to feel good about himself, but he's going to pick up a massive wedge every single week for doing nothing.
Well, I think you've got something there, and I think they're going to have to look at these contracts in the future, aren't they? Breaker clauses and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean, in case things go wrong. Yeah. Because footballers do go in and out of fashion quite rapidly, as the Rooney situation
well, it's not in and out of fashion. It's just that, in and out of form. And by now, he's at the end of his career, rightly or wrongly, where he's not contributing anything. And people talk all the time, don't they, about giving something back. Yes. But actually, they don't want to do it.
No.
Joe says this, it all comes down to the players. Do they love football or do they love money?
Yes.
Pella went to China for the money,
they can love
not
both.
for the level of football.
They can love both. We're all in business, to live and survive and to support our families and make the most of ourselves. I think Wayne Rooney's in a difficult position, but I wouldn't advise him for one moment to improve his image. He should, rip up his contract at Manchester United. That would be foolish in the extreme, and there's no call for it.
Yeah. Now, Ian has sent an interesting tweet in, and it's a little video made by Queen's Park FC. Oh, yes. And I've spoken to you about Queen's Park before, because it was the place my father took me for my first ever football match.
I thought Queen's Park were based at Hampden.
They are,
right. Yeah. That's their ground, isn't it?
It is.
Playing,
and Ian says, my club will be 150 years old in 2 weeks.
Wow.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And there's some great pieces of old photographs and old things
old footage.
Old footage and old football tickets as well.
That's fantastic.
From the days when Queen's Park played at the beginning, and it's got and he's got their Latin, and you're a Latin scholar, so you'll be able to translate this for me.
Okay.
Which I presume is Queen's Park's motto.
What does it say?
Ludere causa ludendi.
Okay.
Yeah.
That means...
What does it mean?
We fight till the very end.
Does it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you're right, I'll
Yeah.
give you a special prize.
Okay,
But
that's
I bet
great.
you're not, though.
Yeah, no, I am. No,
All right.
I am. Don't worry.
Okay.
That's excellent.
And
Good.
Patrick has sent in a rather obscure-looking sort of First World War type motorcycle.
Yes.
This is the type of machine you need for your journey on Monday. How about
Let's
that?
have a look. Yeah.
This looks like US Army
Oh, yeah,
First
it does,
World
yeah.
War
It
thing.
does, yeah. But you see, that wouldn't be any good because that's a trike. That's got 2 wheels at the back, and that can't nip in and out of the
No.
traffic queues, which is what we need.
Yeah, but you say that, but I'm slightly concerned about this nipping in and out of the traffic.
Why?
What is that people get killed?
Well, you know, you have
it's-
to make some sacrifices to be able to
Well, I
work at
don't-
TalkSport.
Well,
you know that,
I'd
don't
rather
you?
be half an hour late than dead.
Yeah, well,
Do you know what I mean?
if you're half an hour late, mate, the show doesn't start, so,
Yeah.
you know, we can't have that.
And now here's somebody after your own heart.
Yes.
OC says, can the two mics be on the radio every day 24/7?
Really?
You'd love that, wouldn't you?
Well, no, of
No,
course
you
I
would love that.
Don't be
If
ridiculous.
you could get some kind of injection every
Yes,
day,
yes.
that would mean you didn't have to sleep and you could actually just talk all day on the radio.
No, don't
you
be
would love that.
Don't be ridiculous. When I'd be able to get a bit of the old bladderation in, eh? You
Well,
know,
obviously you'd want to
take
get
an
a bit of
hour
that.
break hitting it every now and then.
Yes,
yeah.
you'd want a little hour break on
Yeah,
that basis.
yeah,
Yes,
okay.
absolutely right. Now,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you about a story that I was afflicted with today. Because I was telling you yesterday that
This is very interesting.
I'd studied this. I suddenly started getting this warning light on the
Yeah.
new car,
Yeah.
right? Which said that I needed to refill my diesel exhaust pump or something like that, right?
Diesel
And I'm
exhaust
thinking,
pump?
I don't even
Never
know
heard
what
of
this
this.
is, right?
Yeah.
And funnily enough, as I got home down to Sussex yesterday,
Yes.
it had said that it was now running out because before it was saying,
Right.
before it was saying that the level was low.
Yes.
It was now later saying that it was running out.
Right.
So I got my older son to sort of check the handbook. I said, go
Yes.
and figure out what this is all about.
Yes.
Because there's a little a nozzle. Place for a nozzle to
Right.
go next to where he put the diesel in.
How big a nozzle?
It's about half the size
Right,
of the
okay.
one for the regular
okay, so
sort of pump.
like the head of a straw, perhaps.
No. It's, I would say if you imagine that the diesel head is, say, the size of a glass
Yes.
around,
Yes.
it's about half the size of that.
I see, yeah.
So it's quite sizable still.
Like
and
a
it's
packet of Smarties, maybe.
a little bit bigger
Yeah,
than that.
okay, yeah, okay.
More like a Toblerone if it was round.
Toblerone, okay, yeah, but
Does
it's
that-
not.
does
It's
that help
it's
you?
triangular.
Would you like
but
me to
anyway.
measure it in terms of a combine harvester?
No, come on, get on with it.
Anyway, so it's called AdBlue, and it's got this blue thing. And when they brought me the car, the guy said to me, he said, once in a while you'll have to fill this up. He said it's a sort of eco system,
Yeah.
which makes the pollution levels of the diesel not as bad, right? But he said, don't worry, because it probably will go past the first service before you have to do
Right,
anything to it.
right.
But anyway, this thing ran out, so I wasn't that concerned until I then started reading up about this AdBlue stuff.
Yeah.
And if you allow it to go empty, the engine doesn't start.
Good God.
So I had visions of getting in the car this
Yeah,
morning.
that's right, yeah,
And
and
the
think-
car not starting.
That's right.
So I thought, well, I better go and get this sorted out.
So, but what was the warning on your dashboard at this
The
time?
warning on the dashboard was a yellow warning, not a red one.
Right.
That was saying refill diesel exhaust.
But if it had gone to red, you'd have been in real trouble.
Well, it would have been.
And you had to drive for an hour up into town.
And I didn't know,
Yeah.
whether that would affect it.
Yeah,
I didn't, and I stopped, in fact, at a garage on the way up.
Yeah.
To buy some AdBlue.
Yes.
And I wasn't sure if I stop, should I leave the engine running just in case,
Yeah, they haven't got it.
they haven't, no, just in
How
case
d-
it doesn't start.
Yeah, how did you know you would get it in Holfords, the new stuff?
Well, because it said it online, it said I could buy it in Holfords.
Oh, I see, okay.
But
so,
Holfords is
yeah.
in London, and I
Yeah.
didn't want to wait until then. 'cause I
Right, so
thought-
what happened when you got to Holfords?
Well, hang on, I haven't finished the story yet.
Oh, okay.
So I got into this garage down in Sussex to get some AdBlue. They didn't have any.
Right,
They
okay.
said, no, we don't sell that.
Right.
It's only very modern cars have got that.
Yes, that's right.
And
And
I
you said,
went,
well, this is a very modern
Well,
car.
this is a new car. I said, surely you should be selling it. Well, no, we haven't got it. So I had to go to Halfords, and I said to the guy, do you know anything about this stuff, AdBlue? He said, oh, yeah, it's a very new thing. He said, we can fit it for you. We can put it in for you if you like. Because it also said, don't keep it in the car because it's very toxic,
Oh, Christ.
right? Don't
What,
keep
you mean
it...
inflammable or
It's
poison you?
inflammable, so you don't leave it in an open in an open container. You've got to
Yeah.
shut the
Yeah.
the lid on it.
Yeah.
But also, don't leave it in direct sunlight.
No.
And don't let it spill inside the vehicle because
Golly.
it could be toxic and it could
Yeah.
ruin the interior of the car.
Good God, sounds terrible.
So I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do?
Yes.
Anyway, I'll tell you the rest of the story in a minute.
I know,
'cause
it's
we've got to
going on a
talk
bit,
to,
I'm telling you.
what do you mean it's going on a bit? It's
Well,
pretty good coming from you.
Rambling on, yeah.
Pretty good coming from you. This is TalkSport, of course. The British and Irish Lions were defeated 30-15 by the All Blacks this morning. Here to dissect the Lions' performance is Owen Slott, the chief rugby correspondent from The Times. Owen, a very good afternoon to you, a very good evening where you are.
Yeah, hey, how you going, guys?
Yeah, very well, thank
not
you.
Not bad at all. So, I mean, I suppose the last time we spoke, Owen, we did mention the fact that the All Blacks had looked tremendous against Samoa, and whether or not Warren Gatland's side could come up with anything that would be anywhere close to defeating them. And in the end, it proved that we fell a bit short.
Yeah, well, very short, I say. It was a deflating experience watching them today. The score was 13-8 after 55 minutes. And at that point, you could have pinched yourself and gone, "Oh, I can't believe this. The Lions are really competing. They could be in this. This is a real contest." And it was up till then. And at that point, the Lions were playing some magnificent rugby. But the All Blacks turned it on, turned the screw. They have some phenomenal statistics for how much, the extent to which they win the second half of games, particularly games at home. And the last half hour of this match, unfortunately, they went up a gear, and the Lions struggled to live with it.
Yeah, they really did.
You said Owen Farrell would be so much a part of it in the Times this morning, Owen, was he?
I suppose he was, because he was playing 10 for the Lions, but he wasn't able to dominate. You didn't go away from that game at all thinking that was Owen Farrell's game at all. I mean, the stuff that the Lions did well, that they did really well, surprisingly came from the part of their team that has been their area of weakness over the previous 3.5 weeks of the tour, which is their back three, and their back three put together some wonderful moves and really scared the All Blacks. But the All Blacks seemed to win this game by playing the Lions at their own game, really. They didn't win it with champagne rugby, razzmatazz throwing the ball around. They won it with the power and the intensity of their forwards, which the disappointment there is because that's where the Lions were supposed to be strong. They got beaten in their own game.
Sure. And, I mean, it seemed to me, watching the game, that the All Blacks have got several gears left to move up into should the Lions actually get any closer to them than they did today. And watching it, I'd said to Mike earlier, I imagine this might be their sort of closest defeat, if you like, because they shouldn't really... I mean, the last try they were sort of fortunate to get, I thought. So the score isn't really a true reflection of the game.
Yes, I take what you're saying, because the All Blacks kept a lot back. They didn't. Their super skill is the speed of thought of their backs and their handling play. And they played more of a straightforward game. So yes, you're right. There's plenty that we haven't seen yet. The question now is, which will we debating for the next 7 days, is who has the most improvement in them. Now, arguably, it should be the Lions, because they're on this improvement curve, because they're a team that is newly formed. Yeah. And you could say the Lions should have scored more tries. I think they created 5 proper try-scoring opportunities today, and they got 1. Yeah. Whereas the All Blacks really created 3 try-scoring opportunities, and they finished all of them. So if you look at it that way, you could say, well, if the Lions were more clinical, they could have won this game, or they could have won this game. But then you go back to where the All Blacks are really good and the rest of the world are not as good, is that they are so accurate with what they do. So when they do get the sniff, then they finish it off. So
Tuesday's game against the Hurricanes is vital, is it, Owen, to try and get something repaired that's been damaged?
It's a complicated one, really, because... you could say it's a distraction, and they don't really need it. The players that do play in Tuesday's game will, by and large, not be the players who will be playing in next Saturday's game. Yeah. What the tour would definitely like is an uplift, because they've had this very deflating experience today. So we'd like it from that point of view. And the other thing about Tuesday's game is I still think that we might see players who excel in that game, getting a chance next Saturday in Wellington.
Well, that'll be worthwhile.
But that's what happened last week.
Yeah, that's very worthwhile.
That could well indeed be the case. That was Owen Slot from The Times. Pick up your copy of The Times and the Sunday Times during the Lions tour for more quality analysis.
The British and Irish Lions Tour of New Zealand 2017 on Talk Sport. On location with The Times and the Sunday Times. Pick up your copy throughout the Lions Tour for insightful commentary and analysis.
Rob says, Porky accusing MG of rambling on. That's pretty rich coming from him. I've heard it all now, he says. Now, a lot of people are interested in my story about the AdBlue, by the way, which I still haven't finished telling. But Gary from Warwickshire's called in with some info. Gary, very good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon to the two Mikes. How are you?
Yeah, very well indeed. Very well, mate. What can you tell us about this AdBlue stuff?
AdBlue, it was developed for trucks probably 12 years ago. It's an additive that you actually put in and it mixes with a diesel to keep the fumes down. They've now progressed that and took it into cars probably for the last 2 years.
Right.
But no, you can't run it empty on it, and it probably will have that effect on your engine. But no, it's not flammable. The only thing you will probably get with it, if you do spill a bit, it will crystallise.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all I've been told is don't keep it in the car because it's pretty toxic, not necessarily flammable. It says it's got a warning on the tank saying do not leave it in open sunlight. I've also been told if it leaks inside the car, it will damage irreparably the interior. So I mean, I'm not taking any of those bits of advice lightly, to be honest.
No, you can't. But I mean, you see them stored. You go in any service station on any motorway, and you'll see them stored outside. And, we just pick them up if we need them, but we use it back at the depots because I'm a truck driver.
Well, how often? I mean, how often am I going to have to get this stuff in the AdBlue tank though?
Just keep your eyes on it. I mean, I've done probably 1,000 kilometres in 2 days, and I will probably put 20 litres in.
Right.
And I'm talking. I've got a 12-litre engine.
Right.
So. The mixture is very minimal, but you do have to keep your eyes on it.
Yeah. Well, the problem is, you see, somebody sent me Jit has sent me, he's obviously a truck driver, has sent me a picture of his dashboard where he's got a dial for his AdBlue. See, I don't have that. All I've got is a warning sign that comes up when it's nearly finished.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've all got them nowadays, so you can see. I've got 83% left on mine. I've just looked at it now. I've got 83% left.
Yeah. It's quite expensive as well, isn't it?
It is. It is another expense, but it really does knock the fumes down.
Does it? Well, you've noticed that, Gary. Have you noticed when your engine's running and you're out of your cab and you're standing by your lorry, do you notice that the fumes are lesser with this additive?
Yeah, I think if you read the economics of stuff like this, the Euro 6 cab, which we call it nowadays, is less pollution than what a polo car is.
Oh, really?
That's the reality of it.
Yeah, I see.
I'm getting a lot of. I don't know whether this is in any way facetious, but I'm getting more than one, possibly about half a dozen now, tweets saying, "Have we discussed the fact that AdBlue is made of pig's urine?" Is that right?
No, it's that come off when we first started using it in trucks, but no, it's not got pig's urine.
That's what it says. Thank heavens for that. Well, listen, Gary, thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.
I shall be, so in the end, what happened was I went to Halfords, I went and bought some of this stuff, and I said to the guy, how much should I buy?
Yes.
And he said, well, how big is a tank? I said, I don't know.
I've never seen the tank. I didn't know I had one.
I said, haven't you got a list of how big the tanks are in cars so you can look it up? He says, no. So I bought 10 litres, and I put in about 8.
Right. And where's the remaining 2 toxic litres?
It's in the car.
Oh, well, you've got to get rid of that. Anyway, that's the reason why we're hearing a bit of that, But I didn't. Actually, I'll tell you what I would have selected.
I would have had a Who album because he actually contributed to the drawing of a Who album as well.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd have selected Nobody Does It Better, the James Bond theme, because it's also Carly Simon's birthday today.
Well, you could have done 57. That. Anything to stop you playing the Beatles would work for me. By the way, a couple of people have pointed out that your Latin leaves a little to be desired.
Yes.
The Queen's Park motto translates, says Mickey, as to play for the sake of playing.
Well, that's the same. That's the same.
Well, what did you say it was?
Play and fight right to the end.
Something like. Well, that's not the same.
No,
at
it
all.
is. It is. You don't understand Latin.
Play for the sake of playing.
Yes.
Means it doesn't matter whether you win or not.
No, the literal translation for it. You see, it depends which Latin scholar interprets it because it does. There is
you're not talking to some bloke in a pub here, who's just going to go, oh right, okay, you're right then.
Yeah, there is no one definition of Latin when it's been translated. That's why the works of Virgil.
Yes, no, there is actually.
No, the words of Virgil have been translated into several different meanings.
Really,
and what I've just told you is exactly the same in a different translation.
You've spent so many of your years lying that you've now convinced yourself that that's the answer. Ian says this: it's translated to play for the sake of playing because we do not pay our players and never have. Yes. So it's actually about the fact that they don't play for money.
Yes,
you play for the sake of playing.
Yes, that's right.
They're amateurs.
That's right, but it can be interpreted, play right to the end, in the same meaning. Rubbish. That's all. Now, listen, you fancy yourselves a bit of a cook at home.
Well, before you get into that, I've got another call here from Amit, who wants to talk about some AdBlue stuff. Amit, it's a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, guys. Sorry, how are you this afternoon?
Well, very well, apart from worried about my car exploding. What have you got to tell me?
No, don't worry. I work for a rental company, so I just turned on Talk Sport just now and heard you talking about AdBlue.
Yeah. Yes.
And I heard you worrying about AdBlue.
Well, I don't know anything about it, that's all. And there's several warnings that have come along with it.
Very common now, a little bit annoying at times. We've got a fleet of 400 cars within the last couple of years. So there's a new solution, AdBlue, and from time to time, you've got to obviously put this in the vehicle.
Right.
Which vehicle do you have?
I've got a Jaguar F-Pace.
And how old is it?
I got it in November.
Okay, November. Now, you said when you get the message come on the dashboard, you usually worry. You think, oh...
Well, it's just that I never, when I got the car, the guy said to me, you probably won't need to worry about this until after the first service, right? And it hasn't had its first service yet. But what I got on the dashboard was that the diesel exhaust fuel was low. And then it started to say, refill the diesel exhaust fuel. That was all.
Okay, so obviously that's a couple of things you can do under the warranty. It looks like it's just a warranty issue here. It's within the first year, but with the AdBlue, when you get the AdBlue symbol come up, you always get the vehicle should tell you a countdown. How many miles to go?
Yeah.
Especially in a new car, it should never just bring up the symbol for the driver to be worried. Like you've got to stop everything.
No, it was like a yellow. It was a yellow triangle. It just said refill it. So I thought I better refill it because then when I read about it, it said if you don't refill it and it goes down to zero, you won't be able to start the car.
That's correct. Now, this doesn't cost too much. I think you can get 10 litres at any decent petrol station for about £8-9.
I paid 14 quid for 10 litres at Halfords.
Oh, £14. Well, I think a couple of weeks ago, I had one of my drivers go to a BP or an Esso, and 10 litres was £8.99.
Yeah. I went to a BP. They didn't have any.
Okay, okay. So you can see how common it is getting on the new vehicles now. But the main thing I wanted you to worry is you shouldn't worry. On your steering, where you've got the mode and settings, there should be an option where it actually tells you how many miles to go before you have.
Yeah, but I'd just rather not have it. I mean, this is an added complication that I don't need.
Of course it is.
I just want to put diesel. I don't really care about saving the planet. Do you know what I mean, Amit?
You said it exactly what everyone else thinks, but this is an extra cost as well as the fuel you put in every day. Time to time, it looks like the vehicle needs this solution. Right. But when I heard, I just turned it on and got you at the bit where you were worried that it's right at the bottom. You're worried you might have to stop.
And by the way, Amit, as you know a lot about it, are you sure it's not made from pig's urine? I've got a guy, Darren, here, who says AdBlue is definitely a refined form of pig's urine used to remove the nitrous oxides in the exhaust. Well, if spilt, it will corrode your wiring.
No, I think that is a little bit of it looks like someone's threatening for no reason there.
I've got one here from somebody called Jim who says AdBlue contains automotive urea, UREA, made from heating synthetic ammonia and CO2.
So we don't think it's from pigs.
I need to look into that.
Still
What's
sounds
the
pretty.
Of your vehicle,
sounds.
If you don't
Sorry,
mind me asking, what's the mileage?
About 10,000.
So to be honest, and this is the first time you're having to do this, correct? It's about right. On a brand new couple of Mercedes that we've had, E220s, around the 10-11 mark, you'll get the first indication.
Okay.
So it should
maybe it'll just become one of these things that we all get used to, but it's just because I've never known anything like it before. It was a bit of a surprise.
And now, hopefully, you've done it. You shouldn't hopefully see the sign for another 9,500 miles now to go. So hopefully you shouldn't have to worry about it.
That's something to be grateful for.
Yeah, there you
go.
No
problem. Well, I have a problem every day. We've got 400-car fleet, and time to time, AdBlue will run out on one of them at any given moment. So this is a problem across the board.
Damn nuisance, indeed.
Indeed. All right. Well, listen, Amit, thank you very much indeed.
That's very kind.
Now, I've got an insulting text here from somebody calling himself Big Ron.
Right.
He says, MG, that's what we get for driving a dirty old diesel.
Yes.
Go green, you dinosaur. Well, it's not a dirty old diesel. It's a brand new car.
And not only that.
Which is supposedly now greener than anything you're driving, Big Ron.
In the 90s, we were all encouraged to go and get a diesel. Gordon Brown told us it's so good to get a diesel. If you do, I'll knock 10p off a litre of diesel and it'll be cheaper than petrol. So we all went and did it.
Exactly.
Now we're being told it was the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
So who's to blame?
Yeah, exactly.
Gordon Brown.
Gordon Brown, I'm afraid. You have to say is to blame. How about this from Peter in Southend? The best illustrated album cover is Elton John's Captain Fantastic.
Yeah.
That is very good.
It is a very good one. Yeah. Guess what's just happened? Talking about motoring, right? A ping just happened on my phone.
A ping,
right?
What sort of ping?
A ping saying you got a message.
Yeah, right. So who's the message from?
Final request. DVLA Swansea have been trying to contact you. Click below for more information.
Yeah, are you sure it's not a scam?
No. So I click below.
Yeah.
And it's a message from Government UK.
Yeah, saying your car is so old it's time to dump it.
It says, how about this? We would like to notify you that you still have an outstanding vehicle tax refund of £48.84p, I don't know, from an overpayment despite our previous letters.
Really?
I've never had a letter from them.
That'll be a scam.
It says, regarding your refund, we are yet to receive your claim. Requests for refunds are time limited. Please use the link below to complete refund request.
So don't, whatever you do, click on the link.
I know.
Right?
And then
don't tell them your PIN number either.
And then it says, please note, you usually get the refund in 4 to 6 weeks, but it may take longer. You should wait 6 weeks before contacting us, i.e., so we can flee the country with all your bank money. You know, once you've given us your bank details.
there you go.
Best regards, driver and vehicle licence. When do they put best regards? Best regards, driver and vehicle licensing agency, Crown Copyright.
See, what they haven't realised is you're smarter than the average bear.
Exactly.
I've seen through their despicable attempt to defraud you.
You think I'm going to send you anything, pal?
Yeah.
You can whistle.
Do you know the best way to check these things, right? If it's an email. Is it an email?
It's a text.
Oh, it's just a text.
Text to my phone. How would they know my phone number?
Well, because somebody's obviously hacked it.
Yeah.
Somebody's got all your details. You're going to get loads of these now.
Yes.
You've obviously been playing around with the wrong people.
No, I haven't.
You must have been.
I won't be doing anything for this.
No.
Don't worry about that.
I'm not worried.
I am smarter than the average bear.
Yeah.
You guys can go and whistle. Do you think
What's
I
your
need...
PIN number?
Do you think I need to risk the whole of my bank account for £48.84?
Yeah.
Come off,
Yeah, man of the people.
I'm going slightly mad. I'm going slightly mad. It finally happened. Finally happened.
This is TalkSport. We are the two mics. We're going to be talking to Emmett Kennedy very shortly about the Racing Club, who's on TalkSport 2, of course. He's going to be telling us all about what's been going on down at Ascot, Royal Ascot today. Funnily enough, I saw somebody walking around in a top hat and tails.
Really?
On my way into the office this morning.
Yeah.
A guy with his girlfriend or his wife who was all dressed up to the nines as well.
Right.
But they were walking out sort of past Southwark Station.
Yes.
Around as if they were going to walk up Blackfriars Road.
So I didn't seem to know where they were going.
Well, so unless they were getting on a bus or something, I was like...
to get on a bus to go to Ascot.
Well, it does seem a bit odd, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Well, yesterday, funny enough, what time did we finish? 1.
Yeah.
So I'm going through Waterloo Station at about 1:30,
Yeah.
right? Gone and done a bit of shopping at 1:30, 20 to 2. And a couple were sitting at a table outside one of the bars, on Waterloo Station, in top hat and tails, and with the lady had a fascinator on, very, very well dressed, just sipping something. And I thought, have you just come back after the first race?
Yeah.
No, because the first race was 1:00. Are you waiting around to go for the last? I mean, what they were doing there, I have no idea.
How bizarre.
They just hadn't got to Ascot.
Did I tell you I met a couple of guys on the tube the other day?
Oh, you told me.
Sort of mid-afternoon.
Yeah.
I was like, and they recognised me, and we were having a chat. And they said, "Oh yeah, how are you?" And I'm fine, very well. And he said, I said, where have you been? He said, "Oh, we're just coming back from Ascot." And I said, "Oh right, it's a bit early, isn't it? Shouldn't you still be there?" He went, "Oh no, we're ticket touts."
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay, yeah. That's all right. Noble
anyway,
profession.
Yeah, well, you might say that. Let's talk to Emmett Kennedy, who is on TalkSport 2, of course, normally with Racing Club. Emmett, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, lads. How are you?
Yeah,
very well indeed. Thank you.
Very well indeed. It's clouded over, I guess, for the first time this week at Ascot. It's been a great week, isn't it?
Oh, it's been fantastic. The sun's been shining gloriously. The racing quality has been absolutely stunning as well. It's just been a brilliant week's racing so far.
Do you always find Saturday a bit of a letdown, Emmett? I always get a feeling of, sort of after the Lord Mayor's party, really, on Saturday, because during the week you've got the Cheltenham, you've got the Ascot Gold Cup, you've got Ladies' Day, you've got the opening day, which is all very exciting, and it's always seemed to go a little bit flat to me on a Saturday.
Yeah, I think in jumps racing we kind of want to have our cake and eat it too. We want more of Cheltenham. I know that some people would advocate for going back to 3 days. Those people are mad, by the way.
Yes.
But I think by the time you come to the Saturday at Royal Ascot, you realise just how exhausted you are.
You are.
And also today this is great and it's terrific pageantry and there's still great quality, but it's not quite the elite class that we had earlier on during the week. So you're right. By the time we get to Saturday, it's like, okay, let's get to Sunday.
That's right. And
let's have a nice day of rest.
That's right. And you also do find people misbehaving themselves on the way out of the course on a Saturday because it's a Saturday night, there's no work tomorrow, all that kind of stuff, and nefarious practices.
Well, let's hope it's not
sometimes...
like that couple of Kelso this
Well,
week,
exactly. I mean, these people get together. But anyway, Emmett, what's the highlight of today?
Oh, the highlight of today is, without question, the feature race, the Diamond Jubilee Stakes.
Yeah.
This is up at 4:20, as all the feature races are at Royal Ascot, and it's going to be, you'll like this one. I'm not sure if you know the story about Lamato. He's a very good horse who won the July Cup last season. He definitely sets the standard, but his owner is an interesting character. He decided to run this horse in Meydan at the start of the season. Lots of money up for grabs, prestigious race, that's fine. The horse bombed completely, and he basically suggested that in Meydan they do a thing called cloud seeding. And And so they purposely made it rain. The track was too soft for him. And the jockey who rode him, Harry Bentley, who only got the ride because he met the owner at an airport one time and they got on well together, he decided that the horse would be mentally scarred by the experience if Harry was to ride the horse again, so he lost the ride.
Right.
He's very, very bizarre. He's favoured for the race. Ryan Moore takes over. Obviously, Ryan's the top jockey in the business.
Yeah.
But I think this horse has enough question marks behind him. He bombed in the Breeders' Cup Mile. Disappointing last time out. And Henry Candy's horses aren't exactly flying. He does have his ideal conditions today, but we can take him on. The horse I'm going to take him on with, some people are going to think I'm completely bonkers here, but it's a French-trained mare who has only come over to the UK once, and she made it a winning run in Glorious Goodwood last year when she won at 12-1.
Right.
And she's 33-1 today for Gregory Benowitz. She's called Al Jazzy.
Yeah.
Connections to the horse are making all the right noises.
Yeah.
She will appreciate the ground. She'll love the pace.
Mm-hmm.
And today they'll find out if she's as good as they think she is.
Right.
I think she could be. And at 40-1, 33-1 she's worth a go. Al Jazzy.
Wow. Thank you very much
Great
indeed
stuff.
for
Well,
that.
listen, have a great day. I'm sure everyone out there will
Thanks,
have a
mate.
great day. And
Yeah.
if you're
Take
just
care.
betting, of course, bet responsibly.
That's
and
right.
we'll see how we go. You haven't been boasting about your betting record during Ascot.
Do you know what? I want to flay myself to almost to death because I didn't go on Rupert's brother's horse.
Yeah, the big
you know
orange.
What I mean? Yeah, I just couldn't see
I
it
know,
winning.
I'm the same.
I just couldn't see
well,
it
it
winning.
wasn't I couldn't see it winning. I said to myself, I should really put something on this, and I just never got around to it.
No, well, I thought, I thought sometimes you take a gamble because you think it could happen, but I just couldn't see it winning. I should have had more faith in Rupert.
Yeah, it's a great picture, by the way, of Rupert and his brother meeting the Queen.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Which was tremendous,
Isn't it fantastic? Absolutely. He mixes in high circles these days.
Indeed.
Now then, at home, you do a bit of cooking, obviously. Do you cook your children's meals?
I do sometimes, yeah.
And do they stand there and watch you?
They sometimes help me, actually, because they're both quite keen on it. In fact, my older son, Oliver, he now has what they call food technology lessons in school. So every Friday, he cooks something in school.
Oh, excellent.
In fact, yesterday he
brings it home.
Yeah, yesterday
Where'd you get the ingredients
He has
from?
to buy the ingredients,
right,
and take them in every Friday.
I see, yeah.
And then they have to make something, and he's made stir fries. He's made pizza.
That's brilliant.
He's made yesterday he made pasta.
Really good.
With a sort of creamy ham sauce.
Okay. Well,
very nice.
Well, in that case, then your children are getting good direction in food because a report in one of my journals says that children who watched cookery shows on television, which fascinates them because it's all about food, eat 1.5 times as much as children who don't watch cookery programs on television with their mum and dad.
Yes.
He said that this report says it makes children hungry. It tells them that food full of sugar, sprinkled on the meal is a very good thing. And that they will find it digestible, but a lot of the things that are cooked on TV contain too much sugar, too much fat and salt, and they breach World Health Organization guidelines.
Well, that's a bit ridiculous, isn't it?
Of course it is.
They're talking mostly about things like the Great British Bake Off, presumably, which are people making very sweet cakes and making very big sort of massive meringues and things like that.
Yeah.
But I think to get kids into cooking it's one of the best things you can do is teach your children how to cook.
You see,
my parents were not good cooks at all.
Okay.
And I think it's a very much more sort of inclusive family thing to do. I mean, I love cooking with the kids. I think they really enjoy it.
Sounds good.
And I get them to cut up the vegetables. You can also use them as slaves.
Yes.
It's a fantastic thing.
That's right. In my day, only girls did cooking in school. And it was called cookery.
It was called home economics.
No, it wasn't. It was called cookery.
Really?
In my junior school, it was called cookery.
Well,
and what we did was called woodwork.
Yeah.
Or metalwork.
Well, that was because it was woodwork or metalwork.
It was, yeah.
But I thought domestic science or home economics was what they called the actual cooking because it didn't want to make it sound like cooking.
Funnily enough, my younger sister has a degree in home economics, which is what it was by the time she went to the
when I was at university,
College
in
of
Bath,
Food and Domestic Arts.
there was a college nearby called the I don't know what it was known. I don't know what its actual official title was, but it was a domestic science college, full of women who were learning how to be cooks and stuff.
Yeah.
And we call it Domsky.
Domsky,
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 as in domestic science.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And every so often, we would make a trip over to the Domsky, area,
yes,
in order to, sort of fraternise with members of the opposite sex.
Excellent, well done, good.
And whenever there was a party at Domsky's, everybody piled over there.
We used to go to the nurses' home in Nottingham for the parties, but I fell over the wall once.
Yeah, I remember you telling us that
fractured
story.
Myself, yeah.
Fractured yourself?
Yeah.
Absolutely shocking.
Yeah, it was shocking.
Now, we've got lots and lots of tweets coming in, of course. You can tweet us at the Two Mics. One from Alan says, can you please say hello to my wife, Julie, who, despite much moaning about you two, has finally become a Two Mics convert.
Is that right?
How about that?
Brilliant, eh?
Isn't that good?
That's very good indeed. Thank you very much indeed.
You didn't say hello to her.
What's her name again?
Her name's Julie.
Julie, thank you very much indeed for being a convert. Welcome to the world of the Two Mics. You won't regret it.
Yeah, now that you're hooked in, it's going to be very difficult to extricate yourself.
Get this, Mike, just what you said. You said that DVLA text that I got was clearly a scam, right?
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. I've now had a note from a number of people saying, I've just had the DVLA text that you received.
Really?
Yeah.
So they've all just got the same thing?
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And there's one here says, to the Two Mics from the DVLA. Dear Mr. Parry, please could you send your sort code and bank account number for your £48.84p refund? Kind regards, Barclays.
Yeah. David says, Porky, now you've told hackers that 48 quid is nothing to you. They know you've got heaps of cash and will come after you big time.
Oh, no, I hope not.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. The 1 minute moans coming up very, very shortly. It will not be about sciatica, thankfully.
No, it won't be. No.
I'm
Done enough moaning about that.
Delighted to say Jim Proudfoot is here, a man we don't see terribly often in the same building at the same time. Saturday scoreboard coming up, Jim. What's going on?
Yeah, hi, Mike. Well, first of all, I'm very frustrated that your esteemed colleague, my esteemed colleague, didn't fall for my ruse to try and lighten his pocket at £48.84.
Right,
the amount of time that I spent working, carefully crafting that email from the DVLA.
Yeah, well, I knew
just to try and con you.
Somebody devious like you. So,
normally you completely fall for that, but because he loves getting money back from almost any situation.
He fell for each of the last 9.
So, that's very harsh. Very good.
So, we've got an inquest really into the first Lions test. Jeff Probin's with me between 2 and 3. So an hour talking to Jeff. Lewis Moody's going to join us as well. Just looking back at where it went wrong really for the Lions and how things can improve ahead of the game next week. And then from 3 till 6, as well as having 3 live races from Royal Ascot, I've got Luke Moore and Marcus Speller from the Football Ramble, talking all things football. Basically, the guys will take it off in any direction that they choose, and it'll just be a 3-way conversation, looking ahead at everything that's been going on. But we will be talking about Lionel Messi's birthday, undoubtedly, Cristiano Ronaldo, Huddersfield Town, new bosses at Southampton, and then at Crystal Palace this week. So plenty on the agenda.
Fantastic stuff. Well, great. We look forward to it. Jim, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Jim. Good to see you again.
Right after us at 2 o'clock.
That's right.
For us, though, it's time for this. That is, of course, the music for the 1 minute moan.
Yes.
And there's been plenty to moan about. In fact, you did nothing but moan all week, mostly about your health.
Yeah, well, I mean,
but
when you've got sciatica, mate, most people would never have been able to come to work, wouldn't have been able to get out of bed.
You're still moaning about sciatica on the 1 minute moan, which you're not supposed to be doing.
Yeah, well, I'm not.
So, can you not? Please?
Okay.
Would you like to go first with your 1 minute moan?
No, I'll let you go first.
Oh, okay.
I think you should.
Well, you better start me off then.
Yes, okay. Could we have a countdown, please? 3, 2, 1, clock. Yes.
My moan is about Radiohead, because last night I watched a bit of Glastonbury, as you tend to do when you're sitting on home on a Friday night when it all kicks off. Right, tonight's going to be the Foo Fighters, but Radiohead. I've never seen so many people complaining about a rock band on Twitter in my life. Right, because everybody wanted to moan about it. Everybody said, Radiohead should never be headlining Glastonbury.
Why not?
They're not that kind of band.
Yeah.
They're not as good as they used to be. They're too druggy. Their songs go on for too long.
Yeah.
And Tom York is a man who is pretty miserable, to be fair.
Yes.
But, it's a bit of musical entertainment. This is not supposed to be, in any way, shape or form, the way that you should be leading your life. If you don't like it, switch it off.
Yeah.
It's the same as people who complain about, some shows on Talk Sport.
Right.
I don't like it when you talk about this. Well, don't listen then.
Exactly.
If you don't like Radiohead, don't bother watching them playing at Glastonbury.
Yes.
There's a pretty good chance you won't like them. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, if you do like Radiohead, then by all means listen to them and don't complain that they're not as good as they used to be.
Right, there you go.
It's ridiculous.
Right, yeah, okay.
There you go.
Right, fine, excellent, okay?
Yes, are you ready for yours now?
I'm ready for mine.
All right. Shall we do 3, 2, 1 clock?
Yes, indeed. Now then, these people, these eco-warriors, right, they've arrived in Stockbroker Belt, Surrey, and they're trying to stop a fracking exercise which has been given the legal go-ahead, OK? Everybody sorted it. Now these guys who resemble Swampy, that was the guy, wasn't it?
Swampy, yes.
Swampy was the guy who made himself famous for being an eco-warrior by digging tunnels. They're digging...
That's the Newbury bypass.
Yeah. They're digging tunnels under Leith Hill, which is very close to Gatwick Airport, actually, in the Surrey Hills. And what happens is the cops turn up, right, at... sorry, the cops did turn up, actually. But the drillers who are going to start fracking there turned up at 5 a.m. yesterday morning with people that they were going to employ to take the protesters, the swamp protesters, out of the tunnels, OK?
OK.
But when they got there... The Swampy people are so idle, they hadn't even got up.
Right.
And they hadn't inhabited their tunnels, so there were no people to remove from the tunnels.
I'm sure they hadn't all gone to Glastonbury.
No, they couldn't have gone to Glastonbury. However...
How is this a moan, by the way?
Well, it's a moan because of this. The contractors then had the opportunity to close the tunnels down, but were not allowed to because they would have been charged with criminal damage.
You're out of time.
So they didn't.
You're out of time.
Well, I say close down the Swampy tunnels, right? I don't want people stopping fracking. Fracking makes fuel cheaper.
Hang on.
And we can all drive around in cars paying 30p a pence.
With some ad
30 pence a litre. 30 pence a litre for fuel.
Hang on a second. Well, first of all, you're over the limit on the time, but also, I thought they had closed the tunnels down.
No, they haven't closed them down. They said that we can't. They're not our tunnels, but there's nobody in there, so there's nobody to pull out.
It's not really a story, is it?
It's good. It's a fantastic story. Yours isn't a story, moaning about Radiohead on a Friday night.
Radiohead is what everybody was talking about last night.
Rubbish. Yours is rubbish.
Now, well, Izzy will be the judge, and she will give her a verdict over the course of the next few minutes, and she'll tell us who she thinks has won.
Good idea.
Philip says this, can Mike Parry please say hello to Lincoln's finest postman, Chris Gooding and Conan Cannon?
Yeah.
That's a great name, that, isn't it?
Well, that's two people, is it?
Conan Cannon, yeah.
Chris Gooding and Conan Cannon.
Yeah, and can you call them my boy?
OK, hang on. They're Lincoln's top postmen,
well,
aren't they?
Well, that's what they call themselves.
Two of them.
Yeah.
Chris Gooding and...
Conan Cannon.
Conan Cannon. I want to say to you, Chris Gooding and Conan Cannon, you are top men. I'm telling you, there's not a letterbox in the world that you should not address my boys, OK?
That's very good.
Yeah.
El Porkmeister has already won. Terrible moan. Big G. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, that's you. Big
really?
G. Yeah, big Gladstone moan.
Well, hang on. Patrick says if MG doesn't win this 1 minute moan, then somebody should be sacked.
No, not at all.
Porky's clearly out of touch with the unwashed.
No, I'm not. Well, you get pretty unwashed if you're crawling away through tunnels trying to stop fracking going on.
Yeah, well, exactly right. Yeah. Well, I'm sure you should be shouldn't you be getting involved in the old fracking
I tell you what,
in Stockbroker Belt, Surrey?
Tell you what, they start trying to mess around with me in Stockbroker Surrey, mate. I'll get down there with the old... I'll get down there with the machine that you can pump stuff into the tunnel and they come out the other end. You see what I mean?
I think that's... Look, I've got an update on the winner, right?
Right.
The winner is me. Because Izzy's telling me that you went on too long.
Yeah.
You went beyond the time that was allotted for the 1 minute moan. It's called a 1 minute moan. It's not called a 1.5 minute moan.
Yeah, but mine was a serious subject.
Hey, by the way,
a load of drivel.
I've heard a great story that you should know about.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Apparently, your old friend Julia Hartley Brewer is having a party this afternoon. And
a barbecue,
you haven't been invited.
How do you know
that? Because I know you're not going.
So that doesn't mean I wasn't invited.
Well, isn't this the same woman that you once took twice to a football match?
Yes, I did.
And you were romancing for a while.
No, I wasn't.
Unsuccessfully.
It was a professional relationship, believe me.
You two would never work as a couple, by the way.
Well, probably not. Just about a foot taller than me.
Well, I was going to say, she's about 2 foot taller than you.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, why hasn't she invited you?
Well, I don't know. She's a lovely girl,
Well,
Julia.
you're supposed to have known each other a long time.
A working colleague. I've known her a long time, but I mean,
why wouldn't she invite you?
Well, you don't know whether I was invited or not, and I don't
I
want to get
know
into
that you were not invited.
Yeah, I am.
I know that you were not invited.
I'm entertaining this afternoon anyway, members of my family. So I wasn't able to make it.
Yeah, they're the only ones that will put up with you.
What?
They're the only ones that will put
up with you. That's very harsh.
I guarantee you that she has not invited you because everybody knows what happens when you get invited round.
You can't say that. Now listen, your kids come home from school with cooking, right, and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
what about
one of them has been? Yeah.
What about if they came home with this? A teacher at a school called the Thomas Tallis School in Kidbrooke, South East London, was teaching children Macbeth. When he got to the bit about Lady Macbeth taking her own life, then asked the kids, who are aged 10 and 11, to write a suicide note.
What?
If they were thinking of taking their own lives.
Really?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound very advisable.
I'm not joking. After studying the play, more than 60 teenage pupils, were asked to write to their loved ones saying goodbye. This week, senior staff at the school
Really?
apologised. Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
One mother said 3 of her daughter's friends had killed themselves during the course of her lifetime,
Right.
and that her daughter was very distressed after being asked to write a suicide note.
That's horrendous.
She complained to the school as soon as her daughter told her about the task. On what universe, she said, was it ever a good idea to ask a group of teenagers who are vulnerable at the best of times to write suicide notes?
Right. That's
It's
shocking.
outrageous.
That is absolutely shocking.
And it's not the only
have
class that's done it.
have they sort of reprimanded anybody for doing it?
Well, it says at least 2 classes have done this assignment. My daughter's very outspoken, but there are other kids who are not as vocal who might be suffering from depression.
Yeah.
She said it's fine for children to learn Shakespeare, but it's certainly not fine to get them to write suicide notes. So whoever came up with this needs to go back to teacher training college.
Yes.
Carolyn Roberts, the head teacher, said action had been taken and similar projects would not happen again. We appreciate the exercise was upsetting to the family. To families, and have discussed the subject matter and approach with teaching staff. I met with parents last week. I've apologised wholeheartedly on behalf of the school. So at least the head teacher understands that it wasn't the brightest idea that her staff had ever come up with.
It really wasn't. I mean, you think, in any organisation in which we work these days, you would think if you were going to suggest something like that, you might run it past someone. Like sitting in the staff room and go, do you know what? I know this might sound a bit controversial, but here's my reasoning, and what do you think if I do this? And if everybody said, well, I think you've gone mad, I really don't think that's a very good idea, then they wouldn't do it.
Well, you see, that's what rule by cabinet is all about.
Yeah.
And had Mrs May taken the election agenda, what's it called?
What do you mean, the temperature of whether the cabinet thought she should have an election?
No, about what was in the election manifesto.
Oh, the manifesto, yeah.
And if somebody had said, well, we're going to scrap all care for the elderly, don't you think somebody in the room might have said, do you think that's such a good idea, considering that most of the grey vote goes to our party?
Well, you know what's gone wrong with her, right? She got to the point where she thought, even though she'd never been elected to be the Prime Minister, that she could do anything she wanted.
Yeah, I know.
Because everybody kept telling her, including these 2 numpties who were her advisors.
Fiona Hill and Nick Timothy.
Don't worry, Theresa, you are the most popular Prime Minister of all time.
That's right.
I don't know why they said that to her, and I don't know where they got the idea from.
They probably told her...
I've never liked Theresa May. I don't know anyone that has.
They probably told her that if you put tax up to 95% and told people that we're banning all holidays forever, you'll still get voted in.
Yeah.
I mean...
Bonkers.
What were they thinking?
I don't know. Bonkers. This is TalkSport. We are the 2 Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. We're back, of course, on Monday at 10 a.m. Until 1 all week, and we'll have lots and lots going on there. We'll have some heroes and villains to tell you about.
Yes.
Also, for those who haven't noticed, the tickets are now on sale for our show in New York.
They are.
At the City Winery.
That's right.
If you go to the City Winery's website or go to the 2mics.co.uk, you can find any number of places to get the tickets organised.
That's right.
Lots of people have already bought them. There's not that many left, actually. And, in fact, all the VIP tickets have gone.
Yes.
So we might have to try and create a few more of those.
Okay.
But by all means, get involved. And if you can't get there, don't worry, because we're going to live stream the whole event. So that if you could sit in your own home, in the comfort of your own home, right here in England or France or
anywhere.
Abu Dhabi.
If you're on holiday.
Qatar.
Yeah. Saturday, September the 16th, winery in New York. Really looking forward to it. Going to get out there and do the business, as you quite rightly say.
Absolutely.
It will be available all over the world, but it'd be great to see you there in person.
Yeah.
And last night we put out a rather amusing little video of a discussion between the Prez, Donald Trump, only it wasn't the real Prez.
Skip Bornhuder.
And Skip Bornhuder, who discussed the immigration policy which may or may not allow the 2 Mics into the country.
Yeah.
We believe we have a way of getting in.
Now, you've got some bad press coming your way.
What's that?
One from G-Man who says, Porky backing fracking says a lot about his man of the people tag. Hope he enjoys the poisoned water and the scenic views.
Yeah, well, you may have done your research on it. I've done my research on mine. I can't find any evidence of poisoned water anywhere in the world. All I can find is the fact that energy costs in the United States of America have halved since President Obama gave the go-ahead to a massive fracking program which has simply revolutionised the supply of fuel in the world, and one reason why oil now is so low in the Middle East is because there's so much of it, because America aren't buying any because they've got their own fracking situation.
Well, not just that, but they're making electric cars as well.
Yes, exactly.
Now, Andy Murray, I told you about last week.
Yes.
I was attacked on social media for moaning and groaning about Andy Murray.
Yeah, you
and
were.
supposedly having a go at him unfairly, right?
Yeah.
Now,
it was very unfair.
Well, he went out to Jordan Thompson, the world's number 90, right? Who, as I predicted, then got knocked out. Yeah, but he got knocked out in the next round, right, as I predicted. So this guy's no genius or anything like that.
Yes.
But Andy Murray's now so worried about his form that he's going to have apparently 2 separate exhibition singles matches at Hurlingham Club.
Well, that's very good.
Which is a private club.
Yeah,
because
I know Hurlingham.
You know Hurlingham, do you?
Yeah.
Have you been there, have you?
No.
Okay.
But I know of it.
All right. It's somewhere near sort of Barron's Court area, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's out that neck of the woods,
right,
by Earl's Court.
Yeah.
Now, he's going to be playing because, of course, having been knocked out so early in the Queen's tournament, he's had no practice on grass before Wimbledon.
No, that's right.
So,
that's a very good point, that, actually. If you go through Queen's, then you play 4 or 5 games, don't you, on grass.
Yeah.
You're out in the first round, you don't.
Well, exactly. And then whenever he's won Wimbledon, he's also won the Queen's tournament.
Yes.
As I pointed out as well.
Yes.
So I will be proved right on this, I'm sure, because I think his form has dipped to a large extent. People say, oh, yeah, well, he's injured, and it's very harsh to have a go at him. But since he's become world number 1, he's just gone completely downhill.
Well, you're absolutely right. In fact, I'm not sure if I told you, but when I spoke to Eleanor, who is the editorial director of the Sunday Times.
Eleanor Mills,
and she was on the show earlier, and I complimented her
Well, I was here listening to you,
Yeah, but I don't know if I told you before that I was going to talk to her about the McEnroe interview in such detail.
No, you didn't.
What he said at McEnroe was, he's so straightforward and everything. He talked about Richard Branson being a rather an odd chap, you know.
Well, I think everybody does think that.
He talked about Andy Warhol as being the biggest bore in New York.
Andy who?
Warhol.
Yeah. Said Andy Warhol.
Andy Warhol.
Okay.
He said everybody went to these parties and they all stood back in amazement at the genius Andy Warhol. He said, I found him extremely dull, lacking in conversation.
I used to see Andy Warhol all the time, right? Because I quite often would go, because you'd go out into Midtown Manhattan and you'd see him walking around all the time.
That's
the factory was kind of a bit further down, sort of Park Avenue South way, I think. But I several nights I would go out and if I was standing in a movie queue, he'd be ahead of me in the queuing up to go and see a movie.
Really?
Because you know what New York was like. People like to be seen out and about.
Well, John Lennon used to walk up and down Central Park South. And nobody ever bothered him. Amazing. No. Imagine if he did that in Grosvenor Square here.
Well, I mean, it didn't work out for him so well in the end, did it?
Didn't work out so well for him in the end. But anyway, the point I was going to make is he was asked about Andy Murray. He said, well, Andy Murray, he said, he's in the top 4. He said, but I can tell you he's very much the 4th in that top 4.
Who, Andy Murray is?
Yeah. He said he's 4th by a long way.
Yeah.
So,
who are above him then?
Well, to qualify it, he said, look, I'm not having a go at the guy. He said, but, he will never be the legend that Federer is. He'll never be the legend that Nadal is. He'll never be the legend that even Djokovic is,
Well, the problem with Andy Murray has always been that he was unlucky to have been born as a tennis player to play around the same time as 3 of the greatest tennis players of all time.
Funny enough...
Particularly Federer and Djokovic.
Funny enough, he qualified that by saying... That is not his fault. Yeah. He was born, exactly what you've just said, in an era when 3 of the greatest... He said 3 of the 5 greatest players ever were born in Andy Murray's era.
Yeah.
So, and Nadal, he didn't mention who the other 2 were, by the way.
And Nadal, of course, has come back. I mean, he won the French. He might win. He might do very well at Wimbledon.
Yes.
Djokovic is having a bit of a rough time at the moment.
He certainly is.
Federer took the French off.
Yeah.
I don't see Andy Murray winning Wimbledon at all. No chance.
Who would have been the other 2 of the 5 greatest of all time?
Well, you'd probably have to say Bjorn Borg, because he was his fantastic sort of opponent, wasn't he?
Won 5. Well, in fact, Bjorn Borg would have won 6 if McEnroe hadn't stopped him in the 6th one, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, that's right.
And the other one has to be the guy who used to wear the big shorts in America. He won it 9 times, didn't he?
Are you thinking of Sampras?
Sampras, actually. Pete Sampras.
Well, I don't know if you would say Sampras is better. I mean, would you say Rod Laver? I mean, it depends on McEnroe, really. Sampras, a lot of people say... won so much at the time that he won it because there wasn't really much competition.
Nobody else about,
You know, there was no. You don't. If you when you think back to Sampras and his great days of winning,
yes,
you don't remember any great duels.
No, I don't, and I don't remember any of the great players.
No, see, when McEnroe and Borg were around, you always remember their great matches.
Sure,
in the same way that Rod Laver and Ken Rosewall, you remember. You know,
it was like when we remember in the 80s, 90s when we were in New York, the middleweight ranks of boxing had so many talented fighters that it
with Marvin Hagler and Tommy Hearns and all that.
Absolutely, Hitman Hearn. Marvellous Marvin Hagler. I mean, Durant. Nomas.
Yeah, Hands of Stone.
Duranty, that's right, And if you're unlucky enough to be born in that sort of era, you've got real competition, haven't you? What's that? What are you laughing at?
He says, did Mike Parry just say Jurgen Djokovic? He did, actually. Is he now making up the names of tennis players?
No.
Yeah. He does a bit of managing of Liverpool in the meantime. We have to finish the show with this idiot Dan Evans, right? This is a guy who's been in trouble many, many times games over the course of his career. He's 27 years old, right?
What a Burke.
He's already lost funding from the LTA for what has been called before lack of commitment. He's had his attitude criticised before. He's been out in nightclubs until 3 a.m.
Yep.
He's been stripped of funding for not turning up for tournaments.
All sorts of things.
Everyone thought he had finally got himself back on track.
Yep.
He'd got himself into sort of the top 50 of the world's tennis players.
Yes.
And now he's announced he's failed a drugs test for cocaine.
Yeah, I know.
What an idiot. I mean, what a complete 24-carat plank.
Unbelievable.
And he's now going to be banned. He's banned from this year's Wimbledon, probably banned for 4 years, by which time he'll be 31. Career over.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he says he's made a mistake.
Yeah.
No, you haven't made a mistake, mate. You have made a colossal blunder, which has led to the end of your life.
You know, you've blown your own life up.
Yeah.
And you didn't need to.
No.
You know, you were already a privileged person on this planet, man. 50th best tennis player in the world.
Yeah.
And you decided, I'm not going to hang on to that. Why should I?
I'll just do a couple of lines of code.
That's right, yeah.
What an idiot.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. The warm-up with the two mics on Talk Sport.
All I'm saying is...